I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to thank each of you for being here today. And I want to thank Dr. Faust and the staff for the work that each of you have done to make sure that we maintain consistency during this time of COVID-19 within our world. At this particular time, we will have roll call coming from the board clerk.
Yolanda Clark. I think she's still muted. Yolanda Clark. I don't think she can hear.
She's working on it. She just wait.
Maxine Drew.
Present.
Janie Humphreys.
Present.
Randy Lopez.
He's muted.
Now, has he been muted? Wanda Brownlee Page.
Present.
Valdenia Nguyen.
She's muted.
And Stacy Yeager.
She's muted too.
I think we still have some people muted.
And Greg said he's muted too.
Can you hear me, Valdenia?
Yes.
Hi, Greg.
How you guys doing?
Thank you.
It's always a little tricky with new technology, right?
Of course.
Patience is the key word today.
It is indeed. I'm learning all kinds of new things about working out of the office.
Okay.
Randy's present.
Yolanda is as well.
Okay, Maxine, I think we're all unmuted now.
Thank you. So at this time, again, we want to welcome everyone who's here. And as long as we stay on this path to give information and changes, we know that we're going to achieve some type of success at this particular time. What we're doing is working to progress during these changes as an entryway, one directive at a time. So therefore, we will go ahead and move forward with our agenda, and I need a motion to approve the special agenda.
The motion that we approve the special agenda.
I need a seconded, please.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the special agenda. All those in favor, we're going to have the board.
I think we'll need to have a roll call.
That's what I was going to say. All those in favor, we're going to have the board clerk call your name and you approve.
Yolanda Clark.
Yes.
Maxine Drew.
Yes.
Janie Humphreys.
Yes.
Randy Lopez.
Yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Yes.
Valdenia Nguyen.
Yes.
Stacy Yeager.
Yes. And I just want to remind everyone, if you could say your name when you're speaking, because some people have called on via phone and at our meeting at KASB, They encouraged us to say our names for people who are listening via phone so they'll know who's speaking.
Thank you. So at this time now, we will have the reports coming from the superintendent.
I'd ask that the Kansas City Board of Education approve the Kansas Public School 2020 Continuous Learning Plan as submitted by Mr. Matt Anderson, Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Mr. Alan King, Interim Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Lynette Hookfin, Deputy Superintendent, as recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools. And, are you unmuted? Okay, just a minute. Well, he's gonna present.
Working to get everything done accordingly. So patience. Again, just want to ask everyone to please be patient. We'll get there.
KCKPS.
I took it off. I need to put it back on.
She's muted now.
She's trying to mute and unmute herself to stop the squeaking noise.
Oh, okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I apologize. We are working really hard to get everything to work here at Central Office with this new board meeting style that we're going through. I'm going to try to share my screen with all of you. Actually, I'm going to let Lisa Walker get us started. She's going to explain the waiver that will be submitted to the state of Kansas as it relates to the continuous learning plan. After Lisa shares that information with all of you, I will be sharing the full continuous learning plan document that we shared with administrators and teachers the other day. So I'm going to let Lisa Walker get us started with the conversation around the waiver itself that'll be submitted to the state.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to present to you the waiver application and the summary of the continuous learning plan. We are applying for the number of hours that we are not going to be able to be in seat attendance to get to the 1,116 hours required by the state. And so you can tell in the supporting document that was posted that we have included those hours that will get us to the 1116 as required. As a part of that continuous learning plan, we are required to agree to the assurance document, which are the agreements that the state wants us to put into place in order to receive our state and federal funding. And of course, we will agree to all of those. And then following that, and included with the waiver, we must include a summary of the continuous learning plan. We have been on daily consultation phone calls with the commissioner, Commissioner Watson, and the deputy commissioner. And we have taken our lead from them regarding what needs to be included in this summary document. They want to intend or make sure that we are covering all of the important areas that the task force has identified for us, but they also want us to keep it at a high level because they're going to need to be doing all of these plans for every district across the state. And so they have cautioned us to make sure that, you know, this is a high level summary, and then all of our details will live in our actual continuous learning plan. So the summary is what you were provided with last week. At the end of last week, we have continued to update it based on questions and feedback from Board of Education members. And so I think the latest update was added about 12:30 to give you the most final document. I'd be happy to walk you through where those changes have occurred from the one that you previewed earlier at the end of last week.
Go ahead.
All right, let me just walk you through quickly where the majority of the additions have occurred. If you are in the document and you go to page 4 under academic support, let's give you a minute to get there. Give me a thumbs up if you have it. Class, thank you, good job. So we're on page 4 under academic support. And again, I'm hitting the highlights of the inclusions. There may be 1 or 2 here or there. In the first paragraph, at the end under adult learning opportunities, we have added including synchronous and asynchronous professional development sessions and links for relevant articles and resources will be targeted to leverage digital and experiential learning in ways that bring the curriculum to life. It's a little more detail there as to what the adult learning opportunities are. They won't just be professional development sessions, but links and resources that teachers will be provided with, which they may access. Continuing on that same page, in the third paragraph, at the bottom, the last 2 sentences, principals will participate in these professional development sessions and will also have access to teachers' online learning platforms. As a result, teachers, instructional teams, and instructional leaders can continue to collaborate around students' participation to monitor progress of both teaching and learning. And finally, on that same page, the last sentence, building principals will also schedule weekly professional development sessions where grade or course level teams can come together to engage in professional learning that is specific to each group's identified students' needs. So they'll be continuing to schedule those check-ins just like they normally would. It'll just be via virtual platforms. Continuing on that same page, so I'm on page 5 now.
Can you ask a question?
And I'm in that first paragraph. About midway through the paragraph, we have included some details that online platforms selected by each classroom teacher
Hey,
will
Lisa.
include those which are routinely used at schools, so students are not asked to learn technology as they acclimate to online learning. There were some questions regarding how would people know which platform they would be using, what would they be using, and the teachers will select those based on what they know about their students and what they've been using.
I think we have some questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, on page 4, when you said the principals would be this is Wanda Page, I'm sorry, that they would be having sessions, development sessions, how often? I didn't hear a number on how often they would be meeting.
So that Matt will provide more information on that. That specificity is included in the full continuous learning plan. That is not included in the summary plan that we're going to send to the state, which is what I'm reviewing right now.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was just asking them for clarity.
You're fine. Are you comfortable holding that question when Matt's going to share more details after I do the summary?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay.
No problem.
So this is Valdina Nguyen. So we will get a second document.
I will let Matt speak to you what he's going to walk you through in a moment with where all the details live.
I'm sorry, that wasn't the question. I said, will we receive a second document?
Matt has a document for the continuous learning plan that he will be sharing.
So we will receive that document. That's the question. Will we receive the full
Yes.
detailed document?
The questions that you asked, there is a link in that document that we sent back to you, and that is the link to the second document that Matt has.
Thank you.
So you have access to that. Pardon me. And he'll speak to that in just a minute. All right, I'm going to keep going on page 5. At the end of the first paragraph, the last sentence, daily instruction and participation time requirements will follow those identified for each grade level in the KSDE Continuous Learning Task Force guideline. In the second paragraph on that page 5, the last sentence, principals and teachers will continue their scheduled grade level or departmental professional learning community check-ins to monitor students' participation and progress. However, these check-ins will occur virtually using Zoom, Google Hangout, and Google Classroom and Seesaw online learning platforms. So again, those will continue, but they'll just transition to a virtual platform. Continuing on in the document, if you will turn to page 8.
You said page 8, Lisa?
Page 8, yes, at the bottom. The last 2 paragraphs, we have ordered some detail or added some details in to address who we're including in our pre-K work. So you will see a paragraph beginning with USD 500 parents as teachers, PAT, will conduct virtual conferencing home visits using the National PAT Center guidance from the pilot study the national organization conducted on virtual visits. In cases where parents do not have the virtual capability on a phone or other device, PAT staff will conduct phone visits, which are allowed by the National PAT Center. If a family doesn't have enough minutes on their phone, we can put a temporary hold on visiting with that particular family. Reading on, the visits will continue to cover the same 3 components as an in-person visit: family well-being, developmental centered parenting, and parent-child interaction. The PAT team will continue to conduct developmental screenings and other assessments using information from the National PAT weekly webinars, which includes technical guidance, as well as handouts for parents on these types of visits. The only part that will be temporarily suspended is attending well-child doctor's visits with those families who are part of our Promise 1,000 grant. Finally, as related to Head Start, continuing on, Head Start will continue to operate using the instructional guidelines for early childhood outlined in the USD 500 2020 Continuous Learning Plan. Family service workers will conduct virtual home visits to check in on families and provide services. The district will also continue conducting virtual enrollments either by phone or a virtual platform, such as FaceTime or Zoom. Additionally, the district will continue to hold monthly policy council meetings with parents through Zoom. Continuing on page 9, several additions in how will teachers check in with students. At the end of the very first paragraph under that section, we have added office hours will be clearly posted through these online learning platforms. I'm going to continue reading on. In addition, or Google Hangout conference.
Can she go back? Did it
Yeah, she froze there for a minute.
She froze. We didn't hear it.
Yeah.
She's still
Maxine,
It still
Maxine,
froze.
I will.
Maxine,
Can she go back? We're
just a
not
second.
hearing her.
We're trying to get Maxine's attention.
Well, Susan, tell her she's
You have
frozen.
to unmute. Maxine, you'll have to unmute. You're on mute.
Joe,
Dr. Faust, Lisa is frozen. We cannot hear her report because she froze on page 9. So we can't hear you either, Dr. Faust. You're on mute.
or Maxine.
Maxine, you and Maxine are on mute.
Hey, Greg, we see you.
Hey.
And Dr. Faust, you're still on mute along with Maxine. I think we're waiting for Lisa.
Yeah, I had a problem with the technology issue with the board meeting yesterday too. It's just part of getting through this.
Lisa, you're still on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
We can start over with page 9. I think that's when it started
Page
breaking
9.
up.
All right, so on how will teachers check in with students, page 9. All right. The last sentence in that first paragraph, office hours will be clearly posted throughout these online learning platforms. So that's for students who do have access via online. But continuing on in the second paragraph, in addition to these classroom approaches where teachers and students will interact, teachers and advocates will connect weekly with each individual student through Google Classroom or Seesaw online learning platforms, Zoom or Google Hangout conferences, or through phone calls or emails. The focus of these individual check-ins with each student will be to provide support for the learning, social, emotional, and health and safety needs of students and staff. And then here is the next new sentence. Daily office hours will be communicated through phone call check-ins for those students and families not having access to online learning platforms. In these instances, students and parents can contact teachers by phone instead of the online platforms. And then teachers will continue to track students' participation in the learning activities, and this information will be shared with principals as they continue their regularly scheduled progress monitoring meetings. So principals and teachers regularly meet to talk about students' progress, and that is going to continue to happen. It will just be through looking at their Google Classroom platforms, checking participation levels, which principals will have access to do.
Will there be documentation of that? you're saying they're gonna meet, they're gonna talk about it, but is there a form? Is there something they'll fill out, something they'll turn in? So if someone questioned and said, hey, I
Sure.
didn't get that and nobody contacted me, how do you document it?
Sure, that's a great question. And in just a minute, when Matt takes over and gives you more of that detailed dive, he can talk with you about how we're able to track what's happening through those interactive online learning platforms.
Lisa, did you skip over the CSI and TSI schools? Or have you gotten there yet?
I didn't, I'm not sure. I haven't covered that yet. It is
Okay.
on page 7. We did not add to the summary any additional information on CSI or TSI schools because this is the document that goes to the state. But we have those specific schools listed in that document back to you, the 15 CSI and then the 18 TSI. And we will continue to target support for comprehensive schools if they're a CSI for tier 1 teaching, and then if they're a TSI for those subgroups that they've been identified by the state as having some ongoing issues with achievement gaps.
And that was Dr. Nguyen who asked the question and Lisa Walker who responded.
So no changes to the summary document in that regard. Then on page page 13, this was added late last week under other in the very first paragraph as outlined in the district's operational and instructional frameworks and as a part of the USD 500 2020 continuous learning plan. It is the intent of the Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools to continue to pay all hourly employees currently employed with USD 500, including but not limited to paras, maintenance, and custodial employees, in accordance with House Substantia for Senate Bill number 142, and in accordance with all applicable state and federal employment laws and board policies.
This is Valdina Winigan. That is House Substitute.
Sorry, my apologies. Okay, let me check the spelling. The last addition, continuing on page 13, at the end of that second paragraph. Additionally, data gathered from weekly check-ins with professional learning communities, available achievement indicators from completed student work, and student artifacts will also be utilized to adjust and adapt the plan as needed. So as students complete work, we're able to see that completed work. We'll of course make adjustments based on what needs to happen in order to increase our effectiveness. So those were the main changes, again, to the summary document, which is just intended to give a high-level overview of the areas that we're attending to as a district, where you will get a more detailed dive than in the information that Matt will share. The waiver and the continuous learning plan does have to be approved by the Board of Education before we can submit to the state. And the deadline for that is April the 8th, as indicated on the document.
And this is Valdina Winigan. What vehicle, and I don't believe this is this is high level. So what vehicle do you analyze data? It can be summarized from a high level and stated. I mean, that shows how you're going to validate data. How are you going to do that?
Well, the district is using a variety of communication methods. So it would be through the, we have a questions document that Matt will talk to where teachers and staff members can give us information. We have the call center where we're getting information and feedback from parents, variety of stakeholders. We have a call center both for parents and for staff. We are planning to do a survey. I know our data team is working on that, where we will get information from parents. We also get feedback from the principals, from their school community as they're handing out devices or as they're taking phone calls. Also through the feedback that we'll get during the daily office hours with teachers. They'll continue to get feedback through Google Classroom, Seesaw. So it's really a variety of methods where we will gather feedback and be able to analyze how the plan is working.
So like Lisa said, I'm going to take you all through a little tour of the continuous learning plan full document. We want to remind everyone that this is a draft because we know that this is uncharted times and we want to ensure that we can make adjustments as necessary. So this is a living, breathing document as we continue to move forward. I appreciate all the questions that the board members sent over to Dr. Faust. This helped us really think about some things, even if you weren't able to see this document. I believe, Susan, you were going to send them the link, correct?
I just forwarded it, yes.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. I do believe it was sent in Dr. Faust tidbits to you all, I think on Friday, but you may not have had a chance to look. So I'm gonna give you a brief tour of the document. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Let's see if this works. Oh, the host has disabled. Can you let me share my screen, Joe? Thanks. So a lot of the questions that you all posed to us, a lot of those answers can be found in this document. This gives more of the specificities that the summation document could not.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear where it could be found. It's kind of got
I believe Susan was sending you an email with the link to it.
And Wanda, this is Dr. Yeager. Susan just sent us the link to the Google Doc. So if you would click on the email and click it, then it'll come up for you.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. It should say draft. Okay, thank you guys. I appreciate it. So this is the document that I was discussing, and this is the document that Lisa was discussing. This is what we're calling the full continuous learning plan. So this document is approximately 23 pages. I think it's actually 23, so it's not really approximate. But we have 23 pages in this document. This document will be shared once approved by the board to the public. It has not been shared with the public yet, just because we didn't want to put something out that you guys haven't had a chance to preview and to approve. So you'll notice that there's a table of contents for easy accessibility to different sections to the document. I'm going to do my best to scroll through and highlight some key parts for you all. So you can use the table of contents as you start digging into the document yourself. The page right after the table of contents is just a goal statement for our continuous learning plan, as well as what does continuous learning look like in Kansas City, Kansas public schools. This is our philosophy of how we can move forward with education when we don't have a traditional brick and mortar system. So you can look through that. That's how we're defining what continuous learning is going to look like and sound like in Kansas City, Kansas public schools. As we start thinking about planning ahead, we have these guiding questions to help teachers and principals and instructional coaches as they start thinking about instruction for their students. We've included a section on technology that will support this work around our continuous learning plan. This section is around how we're going to continue to communicate with our staff and teachers and parents and the community as we navigate through this pandemic. So you'll notice we have all of our channels of communication listed there. We also have a section about technology that's available for our students when we have a closure. So you'll notice that we started doing a device deployment. So thank you to all of our buildings for taking on this hard work of getting those devices out for our kids. Thank Joe Fives and his team. and all of the custodians and all the folks that helped get those devices ready for our families and our students. There were questions around what platforms are we going to use with our students during this continuous learning. We are going to use two familiar, I'll call them familiar platforms for delivering continuous learning online. One of those is Seesaw, and the other is Google Classroom. Seesaw is better for our elementary students, while secondary is going to be more familiar with Google Classroom. However, we aren't going to say you have to use one or the other. You get to choose, because if I'm not savvy with technology, I may find one easier to use than the other. And we want to make sure that our teachers feel comfortable as they move forward in this work with online learning. So those are the two platforms that we're going to be using as we move forward. One of the things that we say is everybody has a role in this work around continuous learning, from people here at central office and district leadership, all the way to the families at their homes. So in this section, you will find all of just a basic listing of what the key roles and responsibilities are for our staff and in KCK. This is more for the general public to see, because they may not want to see the nitty-gritty. But if you notice, there are links to different places in here. You can click on those, and those will give you an expanded guidelines document, which helps our folks in each of these areas know more about what their roles and responsibilities are moving forward. I put this here for now, but I may move this section, but this is the professional development opportunities that we're providing as a district. So that was a question I think Ms. Page you've asked about, and a couple of others. What are we doing as it relates to professional development in the system? So if you click on this document or this link, it'll take you to another place that'll house our professional development as we started right now. So you'll notice that we've done a few things. This week, we are hosting introduction professional development sessions around Seesaw, as well as Google Classroom, as well as how to record screencasts, how to do all of these things. So you all have access to this. I think this was a question from a few board members. Can I access this, and can I join in on some of these sessions? You are absolutely able to join in on these sessions. So if you click on these mobile minutes, this is how we're communicating with the system as it relates to anything that has to do with technology and professional development. So you'll notice that yesterday we had 2 sessions on Google Classroom. Today, right now, they're doing an introduction to Seesaw. So these are all Zoom. They are not limited to 100. We had changed that so we can get more people to be able to participate. But these are available to all of the staff here in KCK. So those are all of the professional development opportunities going on right now. We do have synchronous learning and we have asynchronous learning. Synchronous learning means that we come together all at the same time and we learn together in that platform. We have asynchronous learning opportunities as well. These are for those folks who may not be able to meet us at a certain time. So those at 1:30 may not be able to join. We have tutorials that we put together for folks that can do it on their own time. So they aren't trying to rush to get somewhere to be learning something. So we have those available as well. I'm going to go back to the professional learning document. Somebody asked about where can we view the overview videos that were done with teachers and administrators. They're also in this document. So you can click on any of these things here and you can watch a recorded version of those professional development sessions. Going back to the continuous learning plan document, I'm going to move us forward into the teacher section. This is another section where we had some questions about office hours. We had some things about what are learning boards or choice boards, all of those things. So each grade level or each level has their own guidelines, because we know that what they're doing in early childhood is not going to be beneficial for students at the high school level. So we've broken these into the different areas. So if we click on, I'm going to use elementary, you click on this document. You'll notice that we have a section on what are teachers doing, what's expected of them. So you've got all of the session check-ins weekly with students. Somebody asked, how are we checking in with students? How are we documenting that? Those will be monitored by the principals in their PLCs. So when we're checking in, saying, how many students have you checked in with? How many students have you not checked in with? How have you been doing that? Yes, the platforms will help us document which students we've been able to contact, but there may be opportunities where students don't have online access. So we need to ensure that we've been checking by phone or other ways of doing that. So that'll be done, monitored by the principals to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our.
I have a question or a comment about that.
Yes.
I just think you need something more solid, that there should be some sort of document that the teacher has to sign up on, the principal, because a lot of times in the past, they're not really checking in like they should. And it needs to be a log where they can put the time, the date, something that they can send to the principal, and the principal, they both check off and validate it. That's just too vague to give that. And we only got 6 weeks. And I know maybe asking a lot, but we want to make sure we do it decent and in order, and people know that people did try to call and contact. You got to be able to document that somewhere.
And that's Wanda Page who asked that question to Matt?
Yes. So yes, we can work with whoever we need to. We can work with the student services side to create the proper documentation. I know that they've already been doing some things, so we can add that into this. That's why I'm glad we're having this time to show you this document so you can give us your feedback. Please know, like I said, this document can be changed to make sure we're hitting all the things that we may have missed. So I appreciate that feedback, Ms. Page.
Okay.
So I will work with student services and anybody else that I know that can help us develop a system for documenting when teachers have reached out to kids. As you keep moving forward, we have lots of information here. One of the questions that came up in the questions that you guys asked were, how much time is supposed to be spent with instruction at home? These documents spell that out. They also are on the other document, and I'll show you where that is in just a second. But you'll notice for K2, it's 60 minutes of instruction in 5 to 10 minute spans. So teachers can determine how they would want that structured for students, be that a video that the kids watch, or be that a choice board. A choice board is a listing of activities or learning activities that students can engage in that helps them review and deepen and enrich content that's already been taught. So we have some samples here for choice boards, and I'll click on one quickly so you can see what that looks like. And we have choice boards for our students to that teachers can put on these platforms, and then students can interact with those at home. Some of them do involve technology, others do not. So we are also working on developing learning packets. Those learning packets will be available the week of April 6th. Buildings are currently putting together a distribution plan to get those out. They will be printed here at central office. We'll send those out to the site, and then they will develop a plan for ensuring that families are able to access those, so they're not all coming here to central office trying to access those documents. Let me go back here. Guidance on the content. One of the things that we have to remember is it's going to be hard for us to make sure that we guarantee anything at this point. So our primary goal is to ensure that students are able to sustain what has been learned the last 3 quarters. So what we've provided guidance around is that teachers find the content around the major work at the grade level from quarters 1 through 3, that they utilize the assessment data that has been collected from quarters 1 through 3 and their 6-week plans, that they develop activities and lessons that deepen that understanding and enrich And then finally, if they are going to choose any content from fourth quarter, that it be a limited number to ensure that our students aren't overwhelmed with a bunch of new content coming at them. A question that came up beyond just classroom teachers is, what are our specialist teachers doing? What are our music, art, PE librarians doing? Everybody plays a role in this continuous learning plan. A lot of the work will be done in collaboration with the classroom teachers, but our folks in the art, music, PE, IART team have developed activities and choice boards as well, so that they can provide those on Seesaw and Padlet, as well as in the packets. We will have things that are related to music, art, PE in the packets as well. So we want to ensure that we're being very big in allowing students to do lots of different things, not just math, science, reading, all those. We do value the opinions and the work of our teachers, and so we ask that they continue to help us with the system by providing other ideas. So we put together a Padlet where folks can put in other ideas for what they're doing in the system to help each other. This takes a village. This isn't going to be the curriculum instruction department doing everything for everybody. This is going to take the whole system working together to make this happen. So we provided this Padlet as a place for people to put their ideas. So like I said, we have one of those sections for all grade levels. We've even done them for high school, where choice boards are available to our high school students. We want our students to have voice and choice, so we've done them. We've done samples for the high school board, so I can give you an example of what one looks like here. We'll do ELA. They're in a narrative unit, so they're writing narrative works. And so they have a secondary ELA choice board that aligns to the standards for fourth quarter. So we have those as well. I know there's a lot of questions around credit recovery that's listed here, and we will discuss that with Mr. King and also the grading considerations. So before we put too much into this document, we want to make sure that we get your feedback, and then we will add all of that information into this document as well, since a lot of this is going to affect our seniors as well as it relates to grades and being able to graduate on time. We do have a full section for special education. This is another big, huge area. So this document, thanks to Dr. Charles and her team, is very robust and provides a lot of information around how we're continuing to provide services to our students with special needs. And she just did professional development with her team, I believe yesterday or today. I think it might have been today.
Today.
So we have our Title I teachers and aides and their responsibilities, school counselors, Diploma Plus. There was a lot of questions around Diploma Plus. They have a whole section here around their roles and responsibilities. Our school librarians, our teacher, art, music, electives teachers, all of them, school nurses, parents as teachers was also put into the summary document for the waiver. It's also included in here, as well as the work that Lisa Garcia Stewart and her team are doing with our social workers. Since one of the things, this is a lot of, it's a scary time. And we want to ensure that we are meeting the social emotional needs of our students as well, not just the content. We've got to make sure our kids are doing well socially and emotionally. The section that we have below is around the students' roles and responsibilities. So we've added a section in here for them because this is a huge part of the learning moving forward. One of the things you need to highlight is now that we are providing technology from K-12, we need to ensure that our students understand the expectations of technology. So we have put together a document that highlights some of the main points for students using technology outside of the school. We have our help desk and information that's available to students if there's technology-related issues. We have a section for parents, same information right here about the student technology, but then what are their roles and responsibilities as we move forward. Then one of the things that we put together is a guidelines document for parents. So if they have an early childhood student, there's a whole section around how the learning could look at home and what they should be doing with their early childhood students. So we have that all laid out here. Like we said, we've identified recommended timeframes. The information that's in this document does align to the Kansas Task Force document. We use that to help ensure that we weren't out of line with the work that the state has done. I'm going to give a shout out to Whitney Morgan. I think she's actually on this Zoom today. We really do appreciate all of her hard work. She was selected to work with the state to help them with that document. And she actually was one of the teachers who we reached out to ask for some assistance as it related to our document. So we want to say thank you to her and to all of the people that have put this together. It was an undertaking. So you have a sample schedule here of how they can break up that time of 30 minutes throughout the day. So it's not one block of 30 minutes. We've also linked out to resources and ideas, and this is all part of our district webpage. So all of the stuff that's linked here is also on our district webpage. So we click here, this will take you to the continuous learning resources that we put together at the district level as well. And you'll see there's hands-on activities as well as some exercise and yoga ideas moving forward. And then there's also some online resources that we've identified. And this is for all of the grade levels we'll see. So we move on to elementary, we have a section for them and what they do with that time of 60 minutes. And then also 60 to 90 for fourth and fifth. And then it talks about limitless. We want to ensure that our students not only are reading, writing, speaking, listening, math, science, social studies, but they're also really being creative, really getting outside and doing some physical movement so they don't get, unhealthy. We also have resources listed there. And then we go through, we have middle school guidelines with resources. Don't get sick, I apologize, I'm moving fast. And then we have our high school. The high school is 3 hours total per day for all classes. So that is divided up so kids aren't stuck in 6 hours of online learning. That is by guidance by the state, less is more. We don't want to overwhelm our students with being online too long. We've put in the credit recovery section here. We've also linked out to the KCKPS high school students frequently asked questions page, as we have a lot of questions regarding graduation and things like that. So that'll take you to that page. We've included the nutritional services information so that parents, this is our one-stop shop, they can get information, on what's happening with the deployment of food services. We've also included a section on social emotional learning to ensure that parents understand that we are here for them. Our behavioral health team, a shout out to them. They've developed a website for parents and families so they can come up or they can have ideas on what to do at home to help their child with their social emotional needs. They have weekly activities, they have additional activities and so forth. So this is a great website to access around social emotional learning. One of the things we do want to encourage, if you are in need of social or behavioral mental health, that the team is here for you. There is a link in here and it's linked out to a form that parents can sign up, and then the student services behavioral health team will reach out to the family to make sure that we're meeting their needs. So we really appreciate that. And then what do our counselors and social workers do along with our teachers? We know the teachers are doing lots of things, but what are they doing? Here's what they're doing. They're still meeting the needs of our students when they're at home. So that is a semi-brief tour of the document, but wanted you to all see that. I know there's a lot more in there. There's lots of links to try, but we wanted to ensure that we provided a sufficient amount of resources and information to all stakeholders in the system, but not so many that it's overwhelming and people don't even want to do this work. So that's what you'll see here in this document.
Any questions?
This is Janie. I have a couple of questions.
Yes, Jeannie.
I had requested that we put in this document that every student household is going to receive a U.S. Postal Service communication explaining the CLP with contact information after the board approves of it. Is that anywhere in this document?
It is not yet. We were taking time to read through all the questions, answer all the questions. That's something that we will need to continue to add to the document. So I'll work with Lisa Walker and her team, as well as Wayne Carell and his team, to make sure we get that information out. It'll probably also involve communications department. So it's going to take a few departments to make sure that we can get all that information out to families, but we can add a little blurb in here that this information will be communicated to community care families through U.S. Postal.
So we will be mailing it out to each household. Is that
You
correct?
want to know if they will be mailing it out to each household?
Yes, by U.S. mail. That's what the state has suggested, that we, in addition to any other communication streams we have, that every house have mail communication.
Well, the board will have to approve to do that.
That's what I'm
And
asking,
you're asking us to approve that.
to add that to that.
Okay, first of all, your questions came beyond the time that we asked you to submit anything. And so my suggestion would be for us to submit the draft as it is and then later add it in if we decide to do so.
No, I submitted it in time, and my other thing was, we do need to have a survey sent out to our parents and community around maybe the 1st of May, asking them how this is working, what obstacles that they had signing up or getting information, what they really liked about it, so we can evaluate how well this is progressing.
And that's something that I'm working with David Rand and his team to help us develop that survey for our families. We'll reach out to them as well. So these are all things that can be added to the document.
So those two things will be added to the document or will not?
Okay, again, what I'm suggesting is, because of the fact that we have to have this in by April the 8th, am I correct?
Yeah.
Then I would suggest what we do is we go ahead and submit what we already have and then add that information that you're asking for, Janie, in at a later time. I think it would work for us to be able to do it, but right now we have to meet the expectations of what we are required to do. That's my suggestion, and I would ask other board members to approve and agree with me that we add it in later, because we want to get the definite plan in first. Later we can add as much as we can, and then even because this is going to be a time frame that is going to be unlimited, then we can, I would suggest that we add that in later, and then where we can specifically look at whether or not it's being successful or not. That's just my suggestion. What are other board members thinking?
Maxine, this is Dr. Yeager. Jamie's just I believe what Jamie is trying to say is we just need to say that we are going to mail them to households or get them to them in the mail. So basically she's not saying to modify the documents, but just to clarify in a statement saying that parents will get a mailed copy of what Matt just explained. Is that what I'm hearing, Janie?
Yes, I know we're relying a lot on social media, email, etc., but we need to physically mail information to each of our households. Telling them that we have this plan. give them a synopsis of the information, contact numbers and stuff. Not everyone does email, as we know, and this way the parents have another avenue have been being approached. And I think it's very important that we state it in our plan. That was a recommendation from the state also. Now, as regards to the survey, I'm not saying exactly what questions should be in the survey right now. I'm just saying we need to furnish our families and communities with a feedback, a way to give us feedback on how we're doing this. And it needs to, again, be mailed to their houses. They can either reply to it by phone to the call center, they can reply through email, but we need to reach out in more than just electronic ways to our families.
I agree with you, Janie. I think we can do that. We can make that happen. We all of us here know that our families, not all of our families have access to social media platforms. They don't all have access to internet. We can get something sent out to the system. And we can add this information into the document. After this meeting today, I will go back in. So any suggestions or comments that we get today, I think we can continue to add to this document. As long as you're okay with the waiver moving forward, we can continue to make this document what we need it to be here in KCKPS. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, yes, it does. The other question I had was in page 12 of the, I believe it's the summary that you sent us.
Yep.
It talked about how we were going to communicate with the community. And we said we were going to connect with local community leaders and groups and provide information to them. What groups are we communicating with, and how are we getting feedback from them? Are we going to include them in the survey about how well we communicate with them, what we were doing? I just think it needs to be a little bit more specific.
And to build on that, if there are specific vulnerable populations, other, different languages, and who's facilitating all that, maybe harder to reach communities that we don't typically see at our, school nights or whatnot. I think, how do we reach those families as well? I know it's a tough question. I know that's getting kind of in the weeds, but I think that is important to Janie's point. This was Randy, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, I just feel really strongly about that community involvement and input, because we need to have our community working with us and understanding what we are trying to accomplish. And that communication piece is going to be very, very important.
Right. I think I could speak a little bit to that. I know that we've been having ongoing meetings with the unified government, the Wyandotte County Health, to get regular updates, KCK Chamber, of course, the Commissioner of Education. And then other community groups who are reaching out to our executive cabinet members. And I think we included this in some of the responses back to individual questions, but didn't update it specifically in the overview. But as community groups reach out, whether they be sacred or secular groups or civic groups, our leaders are meeting with them, and that list continues to grow through interviews, through sit downs with leaders or with the whole group. So we kept it broad in the survey, but of course, I think that information, as we continue to connect with those groups and get feedback from those sessions, we always keep notes from those meetings. I think that could be shared with you. We understand that this is a starting place, and the state has indicated that as well. They know that, we need to get kind of our summary plan to them. And then they understand that it's going to continue to get built out in all of our communities as we get feedback and we realize some things are working or aren't working. So all these things you suggested can continue to be a part of the full-blown plan without any problem.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I think Dr. Nguyen's mic is muted.
Dr. Nguyen may be muted. There she is.
Well, while they're working on Dr. Nguyen's mic, I don't know if we know the answer to this or not. Is there a plan for families that are non-responsive? I know we have families that have different dynamics that are happening, and they're in different types of situations. Do we have a plan for non-responsive families? It goes back to the touch bases that we're doing with the families and the calls, and so I didn't know if we had something, or do we have, like, are we using a secondary number? Like, what does that look like?
So we will continue to use Infinite Campus. That's where all of our families' information, like phone numbers, all of that is located. So if one phone number doesn't work, we'll reach out to the second one, we'll reach out to the second one, or the third. Yeah, we're gonna try to use all avenues to communicate with families. One of the things we said to our principals as we move forward is we're going to really need to reach out to those families that aren't responding. You know, we want to ensure that all families are, you know, engaged in some kind of learning. And if we're not getting the engagement that we would want, just to continuously reach out and see how we can encourage families to keep learning.
Okay.
And that question was from Yolanda Clark.
Sorry, thank you.
Answered the question.
I appreciate that. Because I thought about when we have students that are in our seats, we're able to easily identify what's going on, or, you know, reach out to whoever is responsible, caseworker, or whatever the situation may be, and say, where is this child? But without us having that visibility in the students' lives, we don't really know.
Absolutely. And I think what, you know, like Wanda has mentioned, of having a system of documenting who we've reached out to, who we haven't, we can utilize that data and then talk to our student services team, utilize our social workers to reach out to those families that we're not hearing from. We want to ensure that, yes, we want them to learn, but then we also want to make sure that they're safe. They have the necessary materials and resources to, you know, to do well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dr. Nguyen is still muted.
Yeah.
I have a comment. This is Wanda Page. Now, Jenny had mentioned mailing out the communication as well as the survey by the 1st of May. Is that something that we need to vote on separately, or will that be included as part of the whole package? Because in going back, referencing to some of the things the state did say, they did talk about mailing the communication out. And I mentioned that early and I got laughed at, but I'm still a dinosaur. And we want to make sure we get the word out. And I think it should be mailed as well as have a survey, because we need to hear from the people. What do they think? How do they feel? How is it going? And how do we make it better?
And that was Wanda Page asking the question to Matt.
Hey, this is Maxine, Board President. Once we add it in, then once we approve it, it will be a part of it.
This is Valdina. I think there needs to be a motion for both of those to vote on it, so it is on record that that's what the board decided. And the second question is, well, that's a comment. The second question is, Susan, where was this detailed document? When did we get that?
I believe Matt said that Dr. Faust sent it in his tidbits on Friday, and then Matt just gave me the link to send to you today.
And
So
Dr.
you
Faust is on mute, by the way. This is Dr. Yeager.
No, I hadn't finished my question. Thank you, Dr. Yeager. Tell me again, we got the summary, yes. Now, when did we get the detailed thing that Matt just went over?
After the board meeting started.
After the board meeting
on
started.
Thursday.
Today.
No, so there. So what's the answer? When did we get the
No, it was
detailed,
according to Dr.
original-
Faust.
The original one was sent on Thursday.
the summary?
The summary and the continuous learning plan.
The detailed plan that Matt just went over was sent on Thursday?
Yes, and they continued to update. So it was in a Google document that you were able to go through, and they just continued to update it.
Okay, well, I'll go back to the point. I think for it to be official and on record, Janie, you need, in my opinion, Madam President, Janie needs to make a motion and vote on it.
Okay.
So may we have a motion, please?
I would like to move that every household receive a U.S. Postal Service communication explaining the CLP plan with contact information, including but not only the grading policy, technology deployment, meal distribution, all the stuff that we have been sending out electronically. We need to share with our parents in a written form. And that on or around May 1st, that we send out a survey, once again by mail, to our parents, our families, our community contacts, asking them how they have gone, how they've had success with this continuous learning plan. Questions can be determined by staff at a later date. That can be something that's worked on for the next couple of weeks, but we need to find out whether our parents found it satisfactory the way we deployed the technology, whether they liked the learning packets, whether they had problems getting their internet access, and whether they felt that their children were being served well.
This is Randy. Can I ask a clarifying question to your motion, Janie?
Sure.
Are you suggesting to send things in multiple languages via mail, having the survey available via multiple languages, or how would that be handled?
I would like it to be in the language of the home if possible. I know there are some of our languages that are not a written language, but we have the main ones. We have Spanish, we have Chin, we have, I can't think of all of them right now, but I would like it to go in their home language.
Can I ask a clarifying question as well? The survey, are we asking that it go by mail only or mail and electronic?
It can go both ways, but I want to ensure that we do it by U.S. Postal Service so that everyone has access to it. They can choose to reply by email. They can choose to reply by phone. That's their choice, but they need to be contacted multiple ways. So Susan, did I make it too long and complicated?
I think I got it.
Okay.
So Susan, would you please read back the motion?
That every household will receive in their home language by US mail as well as electronically copies of the continuous learning plan, contact information, and all other information that has been sent out electronically. Then
I think you want to clarify the summary and the detail, because detail is what helps the parents.
Summary and detail, okay. And a survey on or around May 1 will be sent by mail and electronically to our families asking for feedback.
Thank you. The motion has been made. May someone second it, please?
Second.
It was seconded by Wanda Page. Susan, would you do the roll call for us to approve?
Yes. Just a second here.
Please say your name when you say yes or no.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys,
Janie Humphreys, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdina Nguyen,
Alina Nguyen, yes.
and Stacy Yeager.
Casey Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
I want to make a motion that we approve the Kansas City, Kansas 2020 Continuous Learning Plan.
I need someone to second it, please.
I have a question, clarifying question. I don't know if this is the time or if I have to wait until it's seconded in discussion.
Go ahead and ask your question.
So are we approving the actual plan, the detailed plan that Matt just went through? Or are we approving the 13-page, 12-page waiver application? Or are we approving both?
Say that again, please.
So with this approval or this motion, is it to approve the 13-page waiver application to the state? Or is it a motion to approve the detailed 23-page document continuous learning plan? Or is it a motion to approve both? I'm just wanting to make sure I know what we're approving.
This motion, it goes along with A, and that was the approval for the continuous learning plan summary. If I'm not, am I not mistaken?
Yes.
That's correct.
Waiver to the state, as I understand it.
Yeah,
It's the waiver application summary.
Yeah, the one that Lisa went over. This is Dr. Yeager, the one that Lisa went over.
So this is Janie. We're not approving the one that Matt went over?
No, this one is to approve the waiver application continuous learning plan summary that Lisa reviewed with us.
It has to be approved by April the 8th.
Right. So the additions that we voted on, when will we see them in writing? In the summary? Is this the ones that we just voted on, they're going to show up in the summary? Or in the detailed document?
It will be in the detailed document. It will be in both of them to make sure that we meet the expectations.
Okay, so when this has to be turned into the state by the 8th, but we've made changes today, and well, let's finish this motion first, and then I'll say what I wanted to move.
Okay, thank you. Now, if the motion has been made for us to approve the KCKPS 2020 Continuous Learning Plan, I need someone to second it, please, and please say your name first. Maxine Drew seconded. All those in favor?
Need
Susan,
discussion.
with the roll call, and then we
Discussion, Maxine. Maxine, we need discussion. And again,
Discussion.
This is Janie. I would like the opportunity to read the detailed plan and see the new summary with the changes that we voted on into it before we vote on it.
This is Dr. Yeager. So Janie, are you saying the two things about mailing out, that's what you need to see on the summary before we approve it?
I would like to see that included in the summary and in the detailed document before we approve the plan to be submitted to the state.
Could you explain why, please?
Because I want to make sure, since this is the first time all of us have done a Zoom meeting and there's been some difficulties, I want to make sure we all understand what we are voting on and that we understand what is included in everything.
So when would you recommend that we come back to meet to approve that, since the deadline date is on April the 8th?
If I was going to make a motion on that, I would move that we have 48 hours to enable the staff to make the needed changes, and that we could do a call-in meeting or another Zoom meeting on Thursday afternoon or Friday morning just to approve the plan. That's just my suggestion to make sure everyone understands what we are approving.
This is Dr. Yeager. So we're only including two things that would be holding up the vote, which is mailing it out to the students. And the second part of it is mailing all the correspondence. Those two sentences would hold us up from moving our district forward to start educating our kids. For a day when we've had, this is my opinion again, when we've had time to review, I mean, Lisa could possibly sit there and type out two sentences before the end of this meeting so that we could get it approved. I really would not feel comfortable with the denial of our continuous plan for 2 or 3 sentences. I would say, you know, if it's possible, could you add in 2 or 3 sentences of what Susan just approved? Because the overall scheme of the document is there in presence. The only thing that would not be is what we just voted on.
But this is Wanda Page. I want to make sure if I heard her speaking to Janie correctly, she wanted, and I have a concern too, because there's been a lot of questions that were asked and a lot of things were added. And we just want to look at them and make sure they're in the document and everything is there. And I don't think waiting 2 days, we'll still get it in by the 8th to give everybody an opportunity to read everything. Because there were a lot of questions. We've heard, you know, some of them answered, and he was going through pretty quickly. But it would at least give us a chance to go back through and read everything, because we want to do it decent and in order. And if we get together by, let me finish, please.
Sorry.
We get together by Thursday, because we know it's due the 8th. But let everybody read over everything and make sure we're clear. And all those questions, it wasn't just one question. There were a lot of questions. The young man has gone through and answered some he was trying to get through. I get that. But I think we need the time to go, read it all over, make sure we're clear and we're on one accord, and vote Thursday and move on.
Wanda, this is Stacy. We're just voting on the summary that Lisa reviewed today. We're not voting on the one that Matt is working on. We're just voting on the continuous plan summary that Lisa went over. Her summary was the high level and Matt's was the more detailed. So what I'm recommending is that we go ahead and approve the summary, or have Lisa type in what we just noted and have Susan repost it, because it would be a simple copy paste of what we just approved and put it in there. That's all it would be, is just, you know, maybe 2 or 3 sentences that she probably could have updated by the end of this meeting. So would that please you, Janie, to get this passed today, for her to add in those 3 sentences that we just passed?
I would really prefer that we all have time to look at both plans, because they are linked together. And there have been a lot of questions and changes brought up today. And it's a lot to put in the plate at one time. And 48 hours will not make a difference on how quickly the state gets the plan, or that we start teaching, because we'll start teaching on Monday before the state even approves the plan.
I'd just like to say that I think they have really spent a lot of time this week putting this in place, writing it, trying to meet the expectations. And just to give a summary, I think we should approve it. And then to look at the questions that were submitted by the board, those detailed questions can be addressed later. We received originally the continuous learning plan to look at it, to read it, to make sure we understand everything that was a part of it. After receiving the questions, we can make the changes accordingly at a later time. But I think the fact that they have worked so hard to try to meet the expectations of the state, it is a good plan,
And with what Ms. Humphries has suggested that we add that in, I think we should approve it.
Lisa, would you be able, this is Dr. Yeager. Lisa, do you think you would be able to add the phrasing that was passed by the board by the end of this meeting? Your mic is muted.
Lisa Walker's muted.
Yes, I could do that.
Okay, Maxine, I will withdraw my motion and ask that we come back to revisit once Lisa's had a chance to review and add into what we voted on today.
Okay, this
Dr. Yeager.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Madam President. This is Randy. A quick question, and I might be diving into the details too much, and if I am, Matthew or Lisa, tell me, or Madam President. I just had a question regarding transportation. I know y'all are probably tired of me asking about transportation. I know I brought it up a few times, but in terms of how that's being addressed for our families who lack transportation, I know part of the plan has to address nutrition and meals, and so I continue to stay worried about or concerned for our families who lack transportation to get to the schools, also with device pickups or packet pickups. Could you, and again, maybe I'm diving into the weeds too much, but is that something that we need to address? Is that, and maybe if you can point me where in the summary document that might be addressed to make sure that, and I know it's tough and you guys are working on it every day, every hour, and I appreciate that, but it continues to be something that's to my attention, and so I'm just curious if maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
So as far as with the transportation of the, I'm getting an echo, with the plan and how do they get it, we are also providing information to principals so that they can create each plan for their schools, because of course, this is at the district, and then we're giving them the autonomy to say, what is going on at your school? How is that? So again, we're also working with the IOs to work with principals to come up with how are they going to get this plan to their teachers, how are they going to get to their students, who are the students that need this plan to come pick up, and what are the hours at the school for this to take place. We can also put in, do we need to, or with principals, do they need to provide, social workers, because we have social workers too, to deliver these plans. What is or if we need to mail it, those types of things. So there are things that are going on behind the scenes also for those families. If they do not get the packet, the plan, they are also mailing them to the families.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Faust. I think I was also asking about the, I think in the plan, if I remember the summary document, I know for sure in the detailed document, it does speak around transportation, or it does speak around nutrition and how we're feeding our kids and how we're giving them their devices. And again, just my question is around the transportation for those kids who maybe can't get to those 6 locations right now, or can't get to their schools for transportation needs to pick up their devices. I think it was addressed in the summary document, and I just want to make sure that it is something that we're, and I know it's changing, and you guys, your team's working hard on figuring that out, but just want to make sure that we all feel comfortable with whatever language is put into the summary document that we're approving regarding transportation of our students and families to get their computers, laptops, iPads, and their meals.
One of the things on the summary
Lisa is muted. This is Dr. Yeager. Oh, there you go.
So one of the things that we included under other on the summary was on page 13. It's in the next to last paragraph that talks about information gathered from ongoing conferences will be used to adjust both operational and instructional procedures outlined in the continuous learning plan and organizational framework. We included that because the majority of the questions asked by the state focus on the actual instructional part of the plan, but we recognize as a district that the operational side is equally important and plays a part on making sure that students' social and emotional needs are taken care of. So that's where we chose to include the details about the nutritional services and the partnering with the team. And of course, in our daily meetings with the state commissioner, we all understand that the plans are going to have to continue to evolve. But again, they gave us a 2-week window. It's been 2 weeks since this change has occurred, and they wanted us to give them the kind of the foundational part of our plan so that they can get them approved and we can continue to receive our state and federal funding, with the understanding that all of the detailed plan that Matt reviewed will have to continue to be fleshed out and evolved, because we don't even know all the questions right now, and so we can't know all the answers right now, but we have to know the answers to the big questions. And I think that's what the summary is intended to do.
So where did you say on that page 13 dealt with transportation?
It didn't deal with transportation, ma'am. It deals with just instructional and operational procedures, with transportation, nutritional services being a part of the operational side that we'll have to continue to look at.
Correct. So where is that deals with nutritional transportation?
Nutritional services was under social emotional needs of students on page 11 in the summary.
I thought you said page 13.
Page 13 is the reference to the operational side. So it's in 2 places.
Okay.
And that was Dr. Wynn asking the question of Lisa Walker.
Dr. Faust, I have a question about process. So are you under the understanding that no matter what, and this is not saying anything negative, no matter what quality these plans are presented in, that they will just be accepted? Is there any review process? Will you get any feedback?
So they're not reviewing our continuous learning plan. They're reviewing our summary.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, the summary. So what's the process? Who reviews it?
So it's Michelle, who's in office? What's her,
Miller.
Teacher accreditation.
Okay.
She took Colleen Colvin, I think it was Colleen's place.
Michelle Hayes?
No, not Michelle Hayes.
Michelle.
She's a new person over teacher accreditation. That was there's a group that we're sending those to.
Okay.
And there's not the only guidelines that they gave us was that one sheet. When it comes to the summary, what's on there, where she's, Lisa and her team have answered those questions.
Okay.
The continuous learning plan can be just that. It's continuous. That's why it's on Google Doc. It can be updated, take things out. So those are 2 separate documents. But the plan has like the
details,
the graduation number, or not graduation, but the hours, seat time hours. That's a total different plan versus the continuous learning plan. So we just pulled some out to create the summary.
Okay.
But you'll still keep seeing the continuous learning plan, and that'll continue to evolve because it has to. Literally, 2 weeks ago we were not in this spot, and so we put that together. But the actual summary is what we turn into the state.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So Susan, would you please read back our first motion, and then we had a second motion as well.
The second motion, or the first motion, has been approved. The second motion has been, Dr. Yeager withdrew it. So we don't have any motion on the floor right now.
Okay, thank you. So with that, you said the first motion has been approved?
Yes, when we approved adding the mailing in the home language to each home and the survey, that was approved by the board.
Okay, thank you.
And so I want to make a motion that we table this until Lisa updates the document to what was passed today, and come back to it at the end of our meeting.
That was a motion.
Yes.
Second.
So the motion has been made and seconded.
And that
Susan,
was Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda.
by Yolanda Clark. And Susan, would you read the statement again and then do the roll call and everyone say your name again, whether you approve it?
No, you have to have a discussion.
You have to have a discussion, Maxine.
I thought that's what we had done.
No.
This is a new motion.
Okay, thank you. Is there a discussion? So therefore,
I have
on the page.
Okay, she's gonna add it, but how do we see it? She's gonna add to see where it is, where it's put, because I can't operate like that. I don't get a chance.
Okay, once it is put in, once we approve it, and she lets us know where she has it in, the document will be sent to us. We've already approved for it to be added in.
Madam President, maybe we should ask the question to Lisa or to Dr. Faust. Are we holding you up if we take 48 hours and read through this? How is the board holding you up? We don't want to be the bottleneck, but we do want to make sure that you're getting what you need.
So you have to also remember that everyone across the state, all 260 plus are turning theirs in. And so what we can do, literally, she's going to put those 2 sentences in. And then, of course, they'll be put in, but in the actual plan, we've got to create the questions because we don't know what the questions are that we want to ask in the survey. So we've got to come up with those so that will be in there. The motion, the plan, and then literally all we have to do is come up with the 2 surveys to put them in. Those are the only 2 that I understand that we needed to do.
Okay. So the questions have to be in the high level, I'm going to call it the high level overview. They have to be submitted with your plan. The questions that you will survey on, am I understanding you?
No. So it's 2 documents. The plan that Lisa has is 1 document. That's what we have to submit to the state.
Okay.
And then we can put in there, we will put in there the 2 surveys, the 2 things that we wanted in there. She'll capture those. However, in the actual plan that Matt has, the survey, you'll see the survey in that one. That's where you'll see the survey. It'll be in a Google Doc. And then, of course, we'll pull it out, tease it out, and then send it to all the parents with the mail out.
And this is Dr. Yeager. Lisa, when you update the document, would you send it to Susan? And Susan, could you upload it to Board Docs?
Of course.
Yes. Can I get clarification? Am I to update it now and send it to you so that you can review it during this current meeting? Is that the wish?
That's the intent of this motion, yes. Is
all right.
that while we're meeting with other things, you update the document, send it to Susan so that we can see that it's in the document, and then we can hopefully approve it by the end of the meeting with the update that was voted on today.
But so not to overly complicate anything though, does Ms. Wanda, does that work for you? Are you able to get what you need from that?
Can we show it on the screen for everyone, that portion, like Matt did?
Yeah, that would help.
Sure. I need to change the document first and then we'll take care of that.
Thank you.
Yes.
So Susan, would you read the motion, please, so that we can vote in there again, everyone, please?
We have a motion that the Kansas City Board of Education table approval of the Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools 2020 Continuous Learning Plan Waiver Summary until the approved statements have been added to the summary. And that was moved by Stacy Yeager, seconded by Yolanda Clark.
Okay, so therefore we're ready for the motion to be approved?
Correct.
Okay.
Yolanda Clark?
Yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys?
Janie Humphreys, yes.
Randy Lopez?
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdina Nguyen,
Valdina Nguyen, yes.
and Stacy Yeager.
Stacy Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Motion passed.
Dr. Faust.
Okay, let me get to my other screen.
Thank you all. I ask that the Kansas City Board of Education adjust the district's grading requirements and allow the requirements of the Kansas State Department of Education as a minimum for graduating seniors for the 2019-20 school year only, as submitted by Alan King, Interim Assistant Superintendent, as recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
Good afternoon, Board.
Good afternoon.
A quick, brief understanding of this. It's not as simple of a problem as we thought it would be. Take that off so I don't hear myself in an echo. The 21 hours is not just the 21 credits, but it's actually the specific 21 credits that the state requires. You as a board in the past have required 25 credits, and actually this year you bumped that up to 27 credits for this year's freshmen when they graduate. By reducing it to 21 hours, that kind of helps us for some kids who might be on the border to be able to graduate. We have used this approach with students such as those who are in foster care and moved quite often. We've used that as a chance for those kids to be able to graduate on time as well. The main difference between the board choice or requirements and the state's requirements are a half credit of English, 1 credit of math, 2 credits of CTE, and a half credit of electives. So basically our students would be able to graduate if they have 3 credits of math. Math was one of the areas we were concerned about because your current requirements have 4 credits of math, with one of them being senior year. So there's a strong possibility that we have a lot of kids who have their 3 years of math finished, but they're in the middle of that 4th math, which could create some problems for graduation. Other issues we have to consider: the English, that's still 4 credits. Part of that English class is probably still, depending on the schedule, the students may be still involved in that class and they will have to do some things to finish it. Another one that has come up is the American government and Econ requirements for social studies that are traditionally taken at the end. We seem to have quite a few students who are involved in those 2 courses right now in their 2nd semester. So we're working to put resources together so that students can finish those classes without having to worry about whether or not they can graduate. We can get those to them in one way or another. But what you're voting on is just allowing for this year only, for this year's graduation class only, to allow students, if they have the 21 credits required by the state, that they would be allowed to graduate.
Are there any questions?
I do have a question.
None? Okay, so therefore
I do have a
Yolanda
question.
Clark.
Yolanda Clark. And Alan, you may have done a really good job with this. Can you go over again for me how math was selected?
Sure. The math is, as a board, you have asked that we have 4 credits of math. Oh, great, I'm going unstable. I may freeze up. We have 4 credits of math that are required by the state, or by your board, by you, the board. One of those credits has to be completed senior year. That's currently what the state is. The state of Kansas requires just 3 credits of math taken at any time. There's not a senior year requirement. So hopefully kids are on track. Most of them have those 3 math credits already finished, so that will help them be able to graduate on time.
Okay, so we're basically taking what the state requires versus what our district is requiring.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Lopez?
So I just want to make sure I read Janie's question and the answer correctly. We still may have some students who may not meet those 21 credit requirements, or Did I misread that?
No, you did not misread it. We still have students that follow under that. This is a fix for some, and the next board item will help us with a fix for more.
Okay, thank you. And what was that? Is that 176? Is that number 176?
Yeah, I believe that's the number. That's
Oh no, that's a different number. Sorry. Okay, that's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I want to make a motion that we approve adjusting the district's graduation requirements and allow KSDE requirements as the minimum for our graduating seniors for 2019-2020 school year only.
I second, Janie.
It has been moved and seconded. Susan, we're ready for the members to approve.
Questions?
No questions, I'm sorry. No questions, so therefore, Susan, we're ready for the members to approve. Thank you, Dr. Yeager.
Yolanda Clark,
Yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdina Nguyen,
Valdina Nguyen, yes.
J.C. Yeager.
J.C. Yeager, yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. See.
Okay. I'd ask that the Kansas City Board of Education approve freezing GPAs as of the end of the third quarter, but allow students to still complete work which could earn credit, with the credit earned in this manner being signified by the letter P on transcripts as submitted by Alan King, interim assistant superintendent, and as recommended by Charles Faust, superintendent of schools.
Board, I apologize for the wording of that particular motion. It's the most complicated motion I think I've ever written. And that's because there are three main concepts that are integral, but they're separate parts. So I'm going to take you through all three of them just to make sure. The first one is GPA. It's important that we don't allow the situation for our students. First of all, our philosophy of this whole plan is that we do no harm. One of Dr. Faust's favorite phrases, do no harm. So GPA, the plan is to freeze it where it is right now at the end of third quarter. And we don't worry about GPA for anything else. We've got that frozen so that whether a student has access or not, or whether they have to do it on paper or online, they've all had the fair or the common equal footing for this. So that's the first step, freezing GPAs. The second one has come from a lot of parents we've heard from. My child failed third quarter in a class. Can they make up some work? This motion allows those students to do additional work, either as part of the fourth quarter, in the plan it's listed as part of the fourth quarter work that demonstrates they could do what they did in third quarter, or make up work. They'd be allowed to do that to improve that grade to earn the credit. Then the third part of the motion is that we eliminate for just this fourth quarter and the makeup work, the ABC scale, and go to a pass-fail scale. So it doesn't matter what level percentage that they actually pass the content, is that they've proven that they can do the content. We give them a passing grade. Since we're not counting GPA anymore, it doesn't negatively affect GPA. So questions?
This is Valdina, and I have a question that perhaps we need to divide this question because it's so complicated. However, what incentive would the student or the teacher have if the way it sounds may not be the way it really is? You freeze a GPA and then essentially, what incentive is it for the students to perform or the teacher to perform? To motivate.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I lost connection during the middle of it. Could you repeat your question, please?
Sure. First, perhaps for our approval, we could divide this question because it is so convoluted with respect. Secondly, if you freeze a GPA, what incentive does the student have to perform?
Because the students can earn credit without affecting their GPA. So if they work on fourth quarter work and do it at the level they need to, they will get credit they didn't have before.
Valdina, when again, that credit would just be on a pass-fail basis?
Yes.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question. This is Wanda Page. I have a comment. It scares me, and I see what Dr. Nguyen is talking about, because we don't want them to take this 6 weeks as a fluff off. That hey, I just passed. What are they going to do? That you at least want them to be serious and to work hard, because some of them have jerked around the whole time. So that scares me, because when I read that, it bothered me, because I want them to take it seriously, to really come in and try to do some work.
Okay. One of the things is that the students have not earned, if they have not earned enough credits to graduate, they still have to work now to get those credits. We're not giving them the credits just because the fourth quarter is up. If a student doesn't do any work during the fourth quarter, they do not get a credit for that fourth quarter.
You're
So
talking about
students need those
seniors
for graduation.
You're talking seniors only when you make that. Are you talking seniors only when you make that statement?
Yeah, about about the quarter not being able to graduate, right?
Okay.
And that was Yolanda Clark asking a question, and Alan King.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacy.
I think there were two portions in there. This is also for high school students who are, let's say, for instance, a student who was coming into the third 9 week, coming out of third 9 weeks saying it had an F. By the state, we had to close school and it wasn't as normal. So a student could have been saying, okay, I can get it together in this fourth 9 weeks and I would pull through it. But we took that opportunity away from them by closing school. So what we were doing is then personalizing it for those students who had an F and saying, okay, freeze the GPA, and then you will not have an F on your transcript, or you pass that class and get the credit. And then let's say, for instance, there are other students, well, they're going to talk about that later, but that's the premise behind this. Because when we look at the equity behind it, we can't measure this equity for, if a teacher, one student may have the packet, one student may have the device, one student may have to help other students with their homework or their work. There are all certain set scenarios that we probably don't want to, well, I won't say we don't want to. There's so many other scenarios that are in there that would impact this grade for students at the high school level.
So how does a pass, Valdina Nguyen, how does a pass compute?
It wouldn't compute because we wouldn't be doing GPA.
Okay, so how do you, what's the rubric for a pass?
It would be, we said, a 70% or better.
Oh my goodness. Okay. And how do you, and I've asked this question before, are you allowing, is there any consistency? Do you know of any consistency from one grade to the next?
So technically, let's go back to what you asked about the grade. What we had stated is that, let's say, for instance, it's an English 1 class. We'd have to get English 1 teachers together and create a rubric as to what that would look like for a P in their class, so that you don't have one school requiring X, Y, Z, and one just requiring X, to make it more equitable. If it's math, you get those math teachers together and have a committee, because we have time, to have them create a rubric that they can assess those students by, and it's across all 5 of the high schools.
And it would be based on the standards that have been identified that are most important for this fourth quarter.
And that was Alan King answering the question to Dr. Faust.
I didn't hear.
Any other comments?
I want to make a motion that we freeze GPAs at the end of the third quarter, but allow students to complete work for credit with credit earned in this manner, being signified by the letter P on transcripts.
I need the motion to be seconded.
Second.
Thank you.
This is Randy Lopez, sorry.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Do we know how other districts are doing it? Are they doing the pass-fail? I mean, pass, what is it? Pass, it's not pass-fail, is it?
Matt, are you on muting?
That was Yolanda Clark asking the question.
Yes. Are other districts?
So we've been talking about this. There are other options that they can. We're also putting those who need the entire credit through Edgenuity. And so that's the other piece, the other component. But Edgenuity, and then this one is a little different because Edgenuity gives you the entire course. But this is if there was an F on that GPA and you just need it, because of course we're looking at the year. So if you have an F your third 9 weeks, now your fourth 9 weeks, you go in, you don't have that opportunity. So then at the year, you score or you have that F. However, if you failed, and I think I'm saying this right, am I saying it right, Alan, with Edgenuity, how does Edgenuity work? Edgenuity gives you the entire course.
We can adjust the courses to align to the fourth quarter pacing guides. So we're not asking kids to retake a whole course. What we would need to do is take Edgenuity, the course, let's say it's US government, we would see what's in their course and then modify it to align with our fourth quarter pacing guides.
And that was Matt answering the question. Well, Dr. Faust, to clarify, I think Yolanda was asking, are other school districts freezing grades?
So we've talked about this with a couple other school districts. I'll have to, to say if they've definitely done it, that was in a conversation last week where we had a conversation, there were 5 of us will be meeting again, what's today? Tuesday, tomorrow, with the 5 larger school districts, and that was in the conversation that we were talking about on last week.
Okay, so it sounds like it hasn't necessarily been confirmed if other districts are freezing grades.
No, honestly, what I've been reading in articles, and I sent one to the board about the equity in grades, that's the biggest thing that we're trying to figure out. How do we make sure that, one, because we close schools, how do we make sure they still get that credit? Mm-hmm. And that it's an equitable measure that they're getting it. And then 2, how do we ensure that if a child is in there for these last 9 weeks, and of course we're starting on April 6th, so we've actually taken away, they don't have 9 weeks. Now it's down to, I think, maybe 6 weeks for them to get the grade that they need to in order to have a passing grade. And we are, again, trying to come up with the answers of how to make this equitable for all students. That's the bottom line, is how do we make sure that students are not being penalized for not having a traditional setting in the classroom. Then we have teachers who are, they're going to be getting adjusted to teaching online. So that's the base. That's the basis of it.
Dr. Faust, I've looked up a few other school districts. Blue Valley School District, on their webpage, they said, how does grading work with online learning happen? It says in almost all cases, students' grades cannot drop as a result of continuous learning. This means that at the end of the semester, students will receive either their third quarter grade or their combined third, fourth quarter grade as their semester grade, whichever is higher. So other districts are moving in the same direction. Shawnee Mission says that from this point forward, students may submit work for teacher feedback, but teachers will not record grades for work done during the school closure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I understand our situation, and my questions are more from a point of, we have some children that work hard for the grade, and we have some students that they don't care about the grade. They're going to do what they want to do, whether they're in school or whether they're home. And so and then education has to be personal. We don't have, all of our students aren't to the place where they are taking their education personal. So I just want to make sure that whatever approach we take, it takes care of our students in a valuable way, you know?
And also, you give them the option. That doesn't mean that they're going to do the work. So the grade would still remain. It would totally be up to that student.
Yes.
I mean, we'll say up to the student. We'd be doing the check-ins, but you're right. It would still be onus on the student to say, here, this is what you need to do in order to get this, the P. But the onus would be on the child to make sure they would turn in that work. We just want to give them the opportunity if it's there.
Yes.
I don't want Matthew to regret that he read this. One of the things I did hear on what he read was students have the opportunity to go up. I think about our students that maybe they're not failing, but maybe they're not excited about the fact that they received a D or a C, and they were looking forward to being able to average that grade out fourth quarter. I hate for them to be penalized, for lack of a better word. So just my thoughts.
I agree.
Thank you.
So this is Valdina Wynn again. So with the system that you are suggesting, if a student has an F, GPA 0, and at the end of this 6 weeks gets a P, what does that mean?
It means that they'll get the credit, not necessarily on their GPA. So
A credit for 6 weeks of some level of performance when they did not pass for 3 other quarters?
No, this is just for second semester. We give credit at the semester. So this would be from January to now.
So if they pass the first semester, they get a half a credit?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Well, this is Randy. I was going to say, to build off of Yolanda, what Yolanda was saying, and I think what Dr. Faust and Alan were saying, it's about relationships as well, right? So I think it's not just about telling them, hey, you have the opportunity to pass or fail, but how do we provide those support systems, which I think is an ongoing conversation in our continuous learning plan. Our teachers are amazing and have great relationships with their students, our counselors, and other staff or paras. So I think it's, we as the board and as leadership have to continue to find ways to support our staff so that they can continue to work with our students and families, and encouraging them, to Dr. Wynn's question, finding ways to motivate them to want to do the work and to be successful, and how this work, these next 6 weeks, will set them up to continue to be successful. So I think it falls on us as leadership as well, as board and as superintendent, cabinet, to continue to build support systems around our staff, our teachers, principals, IIOs, so that they can then go and support our students and families out in community, even virtually. But it takes, it's about relationships and trust. And I think we've got an amazing staff who can do that. It's just incumbent on us to provide those supports for them.
It almost, this is Yolanda, it almost feels like that's almost going to have to be in our message. If we do a pass fail, it almost feels like it's going to have to be in our message that we realize that the children are not working for an A, those kids that want to get that A or they want to get that B. You're just working to be successful. This is a short-term situation for a long-term goal. So I feel like that's going to almost have to be part of our message if that's the direction we go in.
Yes.
And this is
one of the things. I'm sorry.
Well,
because you also have to consider. Go ahead.
What I think is more, Valdina again, and what is crucial is that after week 1, there's evaluation, because on a 6-week short WIC, if that student is not performing and that teacher never had a relationship with the student, never going to happen. So, you know, we need to have, Mr. Lopez, I understand your comment, but let's not play games with reality. For some students, this is the best thing that could have happened since sliced bread. I was failing, now I'm going to pass, and I'm not going to do it anymore. So there's always those scenarios that are real. And in high school too, I'm not putting on the teacher, but if you didn't have a relationship yesterday, you're not going to have it in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely agree, Dr. Nguyen. That's a great point. It's so, yeah, we have to find ways to support, and there are students who don't have those relationships. So yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else?
And again, this is Valdina. Again, this is this year only, 6 weeks, and this is over.
Exactly.
This year only.
However, Valdina, again, strong indication this may be the system come August.
Yep.
Well, we would come before the board with a new item then for a new school year and a new 6 weeks of learning in this system.
So is there any summer recovery or is there not?
Well, we will be working on a summer school plan because yes, there will be some summer school recovery, and the team had started to work on summer school the traditional way, but now we've got to go back and revise it to make it fit this model.
This is Yolanda, and I don't know if this is possible, Dr. Faust, but it feels like summer school is made more for those students that struggled. And sometimes you have students that just want to keep their minds moving. So I don't know if you can do anything with that information, but as you're looking at a summer school plan, I mean, we have kids that still need to be involved.
Absolutely.
Taking a long time off.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we have talked about, we were just talking about it earlier this morning, is that those math courses. So, you know, in math, they were only taught for 27 weeks.
Yes.
And so they missed that last 9 weeks of a math course. And you know, anything with math, the next time it goes, the next level goes into another. So we've got to figure that out. How do we, in science and all the other courses, but I was just using math as an example.
Yes.
We've got to figure out, what do we do to get those kids back on track?
Yes.
Because they lost 9 weeks of, so that may be a total. I mean, we will sit down and be putting our heads together on how do we get them back, because a teacher can't stop teaching and then reteach that last 9 weeks, because then it's going to throw him or her off on the pacing. So we have really, after we do this, we have like 2-3 weeks where we got to figure out how to get the teachers and the students on track.
Understood. Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Susan, could you please read the motion and then go ahead and do the roll call vote? We've had it moved and seconded, if I'm not mistaken.
That the Kansas City Board of Education approve freezing GPAs as of the end of the third quarter, but allows students to still complete work which would earn credit, with credit earned in this manner being signified by the letter P on transcripts. It was moved by Stacy Yeager, seconded by Randy Lopez.
Okay.
Yolanda Clark?
Yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys?
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez?
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, no.
Valdina Nguyen?
Valdina Nguyen, no.
And Dr. Yeager?
Stacy Yeager, yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
I don't know if is this in the right spot for me? Am I supposed to be reading this one?
No, skip it.
We're going to skip D. Okay. E.
No.
The district will partner with Illuminate Education for 3 years to implement a robust platform that will, no, sorry. What happens? I need to go up. That's that the Kansas City Board of Education approved the Illuminate DNA and FastBridge Universal Screener and Progress Monitoring contract as submitted by David Rand, Director of DERA, and is recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
Madam President,
That's Wanda Page asking a question to Max.
I would like for us to table this until we've had an opportunity to actually meet, to work on our budget, because we're spending money and we don't know what we have, where it's supposed to go, what's what. I think we should table this and come back when we have actually have the time to talk about the budget and to see where this fits within that, to see what we spend, what we want to spend. This should not be here at this time for this meeting. So do I need to make I'd like to make a motion to table this until we actually have a budget meeting.
Ms. Page, if I may speak to that, what I can everybody hear me first of all?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So to speak to that, the money that would be spent on this.
Before you have discussion. I'll second it for lack of not, so that he can have discussion.
Oh, sorry.
Go.
Okay, yeah, so in terms of thinking about budget, with the other things that we would be replacing, there would be no addition to the DARA budget in any of the 3 years. And in fact, I'm anticipating with the reduction in tax revenue, probably mandatory 10% cuts at some point. And this is, would still be able to be paid under existing funds from my budget, even with looking at subsequent 10% required reductions in budget. So would not be asking for any new money for this. It would be already within the DARA budget, no increase to the budget.
So this would come under the existing budget for this year, not next year, if I understood you correctly.
No, it would be, it would not, I would not require any increase to the DARA budget for next year or any of the 3 years over the contract. And I also would be able to pay for this within the budget, even anticipating a 10% across the board reduction once the tax revenue comes in and the districts start realizing that we're going to have to cut budgets.
This is Valdina. Why I seconded, you know, it seems, number one, you shouldn't expect us to commit ourselves 3 years. Number two, not knowing what the amount of funds we have. For case, we should not get any less state dollars. However, what I find frustrating and downright disrespectful is that you present, let's say, almost $1 million project and expect us to vote it on the fly. And
no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
have you done this? Did you present this before?
No, this is something that I've been working on since October.
Have you presented to us?
No, I've presented to the superintendent's cabinet, and that's the point of this presentation today, to express to you why this is needed because of state law, as well as a program that we're anticipating implementing next year. This isn't just something I plucked out of the blue. It's something I would like to have. Yeah,
Mr. Rand, I never said you plucked it out of the blue. And this is what I look forward to listening to a full explanation. But what I don't appreciate is something like this presented to us. Not that if you've been working on it since October, we could have had conversations about it since October. And this is not you. This seems to be a pattern of a lot of presentations. And that's all I'm saying. So I look forward to having a full discussion of this.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how I've conducted business across the last 21 years, is that I do my part, and then when it's time to bring to the board for approval, you know, that's what we do. It's your prerogative, however you would like to move forward. I have a comprehensive presentation that explains all the background, the processes that we've gone through. So, you know, I would appreciate at least being able to go through that before, you know, you guys making a final determination.
And
But
Mr.
if you feel
Rand,
the need to table
that's
it,
what I said. I look forward to it. I hope you heard me say that. We may have some some breaks in the technology, but I hope you heard me say, I look forward to a full discussion. And I think we need to have many full discussions. Thank you. Valdina Nguyen speaking.
And again, my issue was, we haven't talked about a budget. I know a lot's going on and we've had to respond to this, but I'd like to know, where are we in terms of our budget for next year and how that fits in? Now, I know what you said. I still have trouble with the last part of what you said, but my whole thing is, I would just like to see and know when we're going to begin to talk about next year's budget. Now, I know we're in a crisis mode. I get that, but I still like to know, what have we spent? What are we planning? And then with this, how it all fits in.
So
That's why I thought we should table it.
So I sent in my tidbits that Mr. Covington would be sending out information. I think that was either yesterday or day before yesterday.
Yes.
When I spoke about the budget and what you would be receiving, because you've got to do board priorities. As you know, when you do an allotment each year, we do those for the department. So whenever anyone is presenting, they don't present anything on new money. It's money that the board has already allotted for that department. And so that's where they're coming up with that particular pocket of money for. So I would never have them ask for money that would not be in their budget. For instance, if it's an itemized, if it's an item and the item runs and that's consistent throughout the year, that would be in their particular budget. But we never ask for anything that's not in their budget. They wouldn't, that you wouldn't have approved. Like for instance, you approved this one in July of last year. This money is in his budget.
And this is Valdina Nguyen speaking again. And this is where you, Dr. Faust, and the last superintendent as well, and I disagree. And the only one here is Janie, and she knows that I disagreed. The point is, the state statute says, no, no, no. Yeah, we may approve an allotment, but we also are responsible for building that budget. Now, what the question remains is, if Mr. Rand's department, which is, what's it called, research, maybe?
Research and accounting.
Yeah, evaluation,
whatever.
research.
Moving into this budget, if these were these, well, I tell you what, I appreciate hearing the discussion of the plan, because this is discussion. My comments are generally about the budgetary process that you and I have never agreed upon.
This is Janie talking. So are we all in agreement to let Mr. Rand present the information to us, and then we can make a decision on how we want to process?
Jenny, I'm in favor of that. This is Yolanda. I'm in favor of that. I think he's put a lot of time and effort into it, and I think it's good for us to go through it, just as been stated by Dr. Nguyen as well.
There is a motion on the, this is Dr. Yeager, there is a motion on the floor though, that we do have to vote on.
Yes. Susan, would you read it back, please?
That the Kansas City Board of Education table the Illuminate, DNA, and FastBridge Universal Screening Progress Monitoring contract until after budget meetings.
And it was seconded by Dr. Nguyen.
Yes.
And for clarification, that, and I'd have to ask the maker of the motion, that motion could mean tabling the decision. That motion could mean not tabling the discussion.
I'm not clear on what you're...
I'm saying you have to ask for clarification for the maker of the motion. I was under the assumption, as seconding the motion, that we would not make a decision, tabling the decision. However, that does not omit or keep from Mr. Rand presenting. So you'd have to ask for clarification from the maker of the motion.
This is Wanda Brownlee Page. When I made the motion, I didn't want us to make a decision today.
Okay. So would you be open to him coming back and discussing and then maybe the decision still be made down the road after budget?
I didn't want to make a decision today. I didn't even want to hear the report, because what I want to know, I'm still stuck on the budget. Now, that's where I'm coming from, but I'll go either way. I'm flexible, but I didn't want us to vote on that today.
Hey, David, and thank you, Wanda. David, this is Randy or Dr. Faust. You all, I don't know who can answer this question better. If we table the discussion and the vote, until our April board meeting, will that 2 weeks difference make a huge impact on whether, if we did move forward with this this contract, whether it's able to be implemented? I'm just want to be sensitive to timing when we need to make a decision on this particular contract. I do appreciate all the information that you put into the presentation. Would love to hear it at some point, but I also want to be respectful of how others are feeling. So I'm just curious, in terms of timing, when does that decision need to take place?
So in terms of being able to roll this out to meet the state law as far as screening in August, no, it would not. What it would impact is potentially our ability to try to use this during whatever summer program we have and whatever it may look like. It's probably about a 6 to 8 week from signing the contract to getting the system up and running. So it would make it difficult to pilot for summer school. It would present some challenges. We'd obviously do everything we could to work with a vendor to make sure that we get up and running so that we can make this available because it is a good online tool that can fit nicely with continuous learning if that was indeed to continue into the fall.
And that's even with the current situation, the current public health crisis with COVID and the way our school system is or instruction is set up now. I mean, that's even with taking that into consideration.
It's limited by having internet access. So that is the one piece that obviously if folks don't have internet access and we had not figured out a way to give folks hotspots by next fall and we were still under stay-at-home type thing, then it would be limited just to folks that did have internet access.
David Rand, this is Dr. Yeager and board. I think it's important for us to listen to the presentation before we make a decision. And what I'm hearing from the maker of the motion, as well as Dr. Nguyen, is that we should go forward and go ahead and listen to Dave Rand's presentation, but maybe table the motion until after his presentation. Wanda and Ms. Drew, would that be sufficient? That Greg, is that within our?
You make a substitute motion.
A substitute motion. Okay.
Yeah, that's what you really should do, because I think what you're really wanting to do, it sounds like, is hear his presentation since he's got it ready to go.
Agree.
And then table any action on it is what you're really trying to do.
Right. So I will make so I need to make a subsequent motion for that?
Substitute.
A substitute. I want to make a substitute motion that we pin the approval or motion until after the presentation of David Rand. And this is Dr. Yeager.
A motion has been made. Can I have someone to second it, please?
Second.
That was Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark.
Can we do that since we already had a motion and a second on the floor, Greg?
I think technically we want Wanda to withdraw their motion because it'd be clear, I think. I mean, it's kind of a muddled procedural mess right now.
Wanda, would you be willing to, this is Dr. Yeager, would you be willing to withdraw your motion until after Dave Rand's presentation?
To be honest with you, no. So let us go ahead and vote on the motion that was made by her first.
Yeah, vote on Wanda's motion then.
Can we clarify Ms. Page's motion?
Susan, would you please read the motion and then go ahead through the roll call, please?
that we're tabling the entire action and the presentation until a future time until after budget meetings have started.
So in this motion, we will be tabling the presentation as well. So there'd be no movement into after
Correct.
budget.
That's the way I understand it.
So you do the roll call vote, please.
I will. Yolanda Clark,
Yes.
Maxine Drew,
No. Maxine Drew, no.
Janie Humphreys,
Yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, no.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Yes.
Valdina Nguyen,
Valdina Nguyen, yes.
Stacy Yeager.
Stacy Yeager, no.
The motion passed. So the item will be tabled.
Mr. Rand, thank you. We will be in touch.
All right, thank you.
Maxine, I want to make a motion that we, never mind. I'll reach out to you, David Rand, this is Dr. Yeager. I'll reach out to you, David Rand, to get clarification.
Thank you. Dr. Faust.
Recommend that the Kansas City Board of Education approve the purchase of additional concurrent license for students access to the Edgenuity online curriculum to support seniors with earning required credits for the 2020 graduation as submitted by Matthew Anderson, Director of Curriculum and Instruction, as recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm going to share my screen with you to show you what the quote looks like. I know you have it available as well, but I'll share it here. As you know, with any changes in the graduation requirements, changes in this year being uncharted with moving forward with students and making sure they have all the necessary things for those even beyond senior year. We reached out to Edgenuity to see how much it would cost to add more licenses in the case that we'd increase the number of students who need to recover credits or receive initial credit. You'll notice on here, they're charging us only $3,500. The $3,500 is the cost for the professional development option that comes with it. They have waived all the fees for all of our 612 students, and that's unlimited access. So we could have all of our kids who are currently needing credit to be on the system. Our current contract is only 100 concurrent licenses, meaning that we can only have 100 students on at any one point in the day. If we would have over 100 students, it would not allow those students to enter. We currently have 176 students in the district using it, but they've been able to not be using it at the same time. And that's a lot has to do with how buildings have planned out how they have kids on credit recovery systems. So each building has a plan for how they handle students when they're on those things. Kids could ultimately be at home on a Saturday night at midnight working on it if they really wanted to. So the system's pretty flexible. That cost for just those 100 concurrent licenses is $50,000. So they've waived unlimited access for all of our students up until July 31st. So this would allow all of our students who do any kind of credit recovery to have access over the summer. So this would be used during summer school, and it would be used during this 6-week period to ensure that our students are able to graduate on time. So if you look on the second page, just kidding, you'll notice that, hold on, I have to find it, I apologize. Here's what the quote outlines. It will give us full access for all 612 schools at no cost through July 31st. It would provide us access to a landing page, which would give us access to 40+ weekly live webinars. It would allow us to have PD supports to ensure that we can get all the people who are going to be utilizing it and helping us develop things through it. They would be able to support us with that. There's on-demand training. And then finally, they've dedicated some weekly KCKPS webinars just for our own needs. So with that, if there's any questions.
Any questions? So I need a motion, please.
I make a motion that we approve the purchase of additional concurrent licenses, student access, to Ingenuity online curriculum.
It's seconded.
Was that Wanda?
Yeah.
Oh.
The motion has been moved and seconded. Susan, roll call, please.
Is there any discussion?
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
No, no discussion.
No.
Yolanda Clark,
Yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdina Nguyen,
Valdina Nguyen, yes.
Stacy Yeager.
Stacy Yeager, yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I'm trying to get back to.
That's at the,
Oh, sorry.
that's at the Kansas City Board of Education approve the payment of bills for the Kansas City, Kansas public libraries as submitted by Dennis Covington, Chief Financial Officer, and as recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
So move.
I make
May I
a
have a
motion,
motion, please?
I make a motion that we approve the payment of bills for the public libraries. This is Stacy Yeager.
I think
Second.
Randy already did.
Oh,
So you want a second, Stacy?
yes.
Any discussion? So the motion has been made for us to approve payment of bills for the public library. Susan, would you do roll call, please?
Yolanda Clark,
Yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdina Nguyen,
Valdina Nguyen, yes.
Stacy Yeager.
Stacy Yeager, yes.
Motion passes.
That's at the Kansas City Board of Education extend closure of Kansas City, Kansas public school libraries to April 23rd as required by shelter at home orders, and then reevaluate with the local and state guidance as submitted by Carol Levers, Director of Libraries, and is recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
Any questions?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment.
Okay.
Reading the document that we received from the president at the last meeting of the Library Association, her recommendation is that they be closed since the governor shut it down, schools for the rest of the year, close the libraries as well. They still have e-library, and I think we're putting people in danger, and you know, it just doesn't make sense. I think the state of Kansas has done a good job when she shut everything down, fighting that curve in comparison to Missouri. And it just doesn't make sense to keep coming up with this. Just shut it down, close it.
So your recommendation is to change it from April the 23rd as from between now and April 23rd, but just for the rest of the designated school year?
Yes.
Any questions or comments?
You need a second.
This is Dr. Yeager. I think it's important that we not be faithful to close them down beyond what the recommendation is. And so if we need to come back and revisit it our next meeting, I think that we could do that at that time, because the public library is separate from the school district. Although the school district is the governing board of the library, it still is a separate entity.
I won't debate that. We still run those libraries. You can call us separate, whatever. We're still over it. And for public safety, It just seems futile to keep coming up each time and extending the time, and the year's over. Any other discussion or comments?
Surrounding libraries. Question. Does anyone know about Johnson County libraries or the other libraries?
I know the St. Joe libraries are closed.
Do you know Johnson County?
I don't know Johnson County.
They are closed. I don't know for how long. I think Carol had all that in at our last special meeting. Had to look back. I don't think any of them had extended to the end of the school year.
This is Janie commenting. Schools and libraries are different. Our schools are providing a continuous learning environment, and I think we have to treat them separately from the library. And we are protecting the public and our employees by extending the closure till April 23rd. Is that right, Susan?
Correct.
And then we will look and see what the American Library Association has to suggest and what our health department suggests about that. That is my preference.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Does anyone have any insight from the employees?
Their preference from when I spoke with Carol was the fact that they wanted to be shut down and for us to vote to do that. That was at our last meeting, but since then, whatever we put into place, they will be supportive of it.
Ms. Drew, be shut down until when? Are they wanting us to continue extending based upon what's happening in the world?
Speaking.
This is Yolanda, I'm sorry.
They wanted us, when we had our last board meeting, they were going to work and they wanted us to actually shut down the library according to a plan that we would put into place. They are satisfied with the fact that at that time that we did agree to shut the library down at a designated time. When we started looking at the agenda, we recognized that we needed to address it because the time has passed on. I'm in agreement with Dr. Yeager and Janie to leave it at the 23rd and then reevaluate it because it is a business, not a learning institution like our schools. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you.
Any other comments? This is Wanda Brownlee Page. It may be a business, but we're over it. And they're under our guidance. That's all I'm gonna say. And yes, I do agree with you. And I think extending it to the 23rd would be a good plan. And then we can reevaluate it when we have our next board meeting as to whether or not we need to continue throughout the end of the year. So Susan, could we go ahead and—
Wait, I've got one question. Is our area stay at home on the 23rd or does it expire on 24th?
That's what I was trying to look at. I'm sure we got the right date.
I thought it was the 23rd, but possibly that's not right.
I'm not sure.
So April 23rd is a Thursday.
Susan, this is Stacy. I think we're looking for the information now online.
Well, while they're looking, Valdina, when we wouldn't want to ask the employees or open it up on a Friday.
That's a good point.
So you might want to say Monday the 27th.
Yeah, if we don't know.
It's coming up.
Accordingly, it says that her began April, runs through April the 22nd. No, through April the 19th.
So if we choose to do it on the 27th, would be acceptable.
Ms. Valdine and Greg, have you found anything?
No, I think you're fine if you wanted to go through the 27th, which would be that Monday, right?
Is that acceptable to everyone? If we change it from the 24th to 23rd through the 27th? So I'm assuming that that would be okay. So Susan, the motion that was made, let's go through and vote on it, and then we will revise it with the 27th.
So the motion was until the end of the school year.
Yeah, that's the current motion is through the end of the school year.
Through the end of the school year.
Okay. So let's go ahead and go through that.
But has that been seconded?
Second, Valdine Wynn.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
The motion on the floor right now is that we close the libraries until the end of the school year.
That's correct.
That was Yolanda Clark who asked the question.
Any additional questions or discussion? All right, so we're ready for roll call.
Yolanda Clark?
No.
Maxine Drew?
No. Maxine Drew?
Janie Humphreys?
No.
Randy Lopez?
Randy Lopez, no.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Yes. Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdina Wynn?
Valdine Wynn, yes.
Stacy Yeager?
No. Stacy Yeager.
All right, so the motion failed.
I make a motion that we extend the closure of the libraries as required by the shelter at home orders. And then the letter to modify until April 27th, 2020.
And then reevaluate?
And then reevaluate.
I'll second. This is Randy Lopez.
The motion has been made and seconded. We're ready for the roll call vote.
Discussion.
Any
discussion?
Thank you. We're ready for the vote.
Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys?
Yes, Janie.
Randy Lopez?
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, no.
Valdina Wynn?
Valdine Wynn, yes.
And Stacy Yeager?
Stacy Yeager, yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Now ready to look at the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Madam President, I have one thing that I want to remove from the bills. So when should I make that request, before or after the second?
The bills and
the bills is not part of
the bills. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Sorry about that.
That was Janie Humphreys asking a question to Maxine Drew.
So again, the motion has been made that we approve the consent agenda. I need someone to second it, please.
Second, Randy Lopez, second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. We're ready for a roll call. Any discussion? Now we're ready for roll call.
Yolanda Clark?
Yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys?
Yes.
Randy Lopez?
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdina Wynn?
Valdina Wynn, yes.
Stacy Yeager?
Stacy Yeager, yes.
Pass. The motion passes.
Thank you. Now we're ready for this approved payment of bills. And Janie, you want to?
Okay, sorry, I jumped ahead on that. I would like to remove on page 15, line 3, the $1,000 payment to the venue at Willow Creek.
Page 15 line, what was that?
Line 3, I believe. It's the venue at Willow Creek. It's the reservation for the reasons to believe, which we had canceled from earlier in the year. I think June is too soon to be planning a gathering with the information that we have right now. And I don't see any reason to put down a deposit when I believe at the last meeting, it was shared with us that they were going to postpone reasons to believe probably to the fall.
Madam President.
Yes, sir. Mr. Covington, Chief Financial Officer.
The payment is to reserve the room, and according to Crystal, they have not told the establishment that they are totally canceling the event. So they need to keep the room reserved, and that's what the $1,000 pays for. So if they move the event to September, they still have the room reserved. If we cancel or ask for a deposit return, they don't have the room reserved for September.
Okay.
Any comment?
Hey, Dennis, this is Randy. Sorry, quick question. So, so we've already paid the $1,000 deposit, but so it guarantees us that we have reserved it, but it doesn't reserve necessarily a date. So even if we wanted it September, we still have to ask for a date and see if it's available before they'll reserve it.
That's correct.
Okay.
Valdino, in question, is there a, I guess, a time when you can cancel and get a refund?
Yes, ma'am. If Crystal them decide that we're not going to have the event, they will return the $1,000.
Is that in writing?
I have not seen the contract.
Well, then I would not support paying if we don't know the details of how to get our money back. $1,000 not a lot, but still, right now many people are not planning those type of public events, and so I think it's not being wise to put a down payment down when if you don't know there is a, you know, you can cancel within a week, maybe you can get your money back, but if we don't know, then you don't pay the bill. But that's not on page 13. What page is it on?
15, I believe, Dr. Nguyen. This is Janie Humphreys again, and if this is a foundation event, shouldn't that be coming out of foundation funds, not the school district funds?
This year, they had partnered together with us. This is the last year that the school district would be funding or doing the reason to believe the foundation was going to take it over, but they were partnering with the school district this year in support to do the reasons to believe.
Madam President.
Yes, sir.
I have Mr. Corral here to answer the board about canceling the check.
And because this is a force majeure event, we have the option to cancel and get a full refund.
What did he say?
We have the option to cancel and get a full refund.
Because it's a what event?
Because this is beyond both parties' control. It's a government forced action. And Mr. Goheen could probably speak to it better than us, but if it's a force majeure event, if it's something beyond our control.
Yeah, it's like an act of God.
It's like a what?
Like an act of God.
Right,
Like,
so why would we pay for knowing the act of God is still with us? And we haven't
that's not my decision.
And that is correct. That is not your decision.
So this is Janie with another question. So only if the UG says there's no events of more than 50 people that we can get a refund. If we just decide that in May that we don't think we can host it, we don't get our $1,000 back. It has to be a decree from the UG or the health department.
Well, if it's termination for convenience, you know, I'll have to go back and look at the agreement and report to you. what a termination for convenience entails.
Okay.
Valdina Wynn again. Help me understand then, what's the basis of your first comment if you have to go back and look at the agreement?
It's a force majeure event when it's beyond both parties' control. You know, we're canceling the event because the UG says that we can't come together. It's beyond both parties' control. And that's why we get the $1,000 back without any penalty.
Right. So why are we, I still can't find the checks, but that's all right. I'm a no.
Does that law, is that only for the state of Kansas? Because I'm in some other organizations and we've lost money. We didn't get a refund back. So I was just wondering, is that just something?
No, if you had to cancel an event because of this virus and a shutdown by the government, you should be able to get your money back.
Well, I just put down for a hotel reservation in Atlanta and they specifically said there was no refund. So that's why I'm just asking, was it just something with Kansas or is it universal?
No, I'd be surprised if you can't get your money back on that hotel reservation if you need to.
Okay. Well, you taught me something.
I'm not swearing that's the case, but I'm pretty sure under the circumstances it probably is.
Any other comments?
Well, my other comment would be, this is Valdina Wynn. Chances are, there's not too many people lining up to have public events. So if we don't put the $1,000 down, I don't think we have a lot to lose. But matter of vote.
I would agree. This is Randy. I mean, I think maybe it's something we can hold off on. It's not anything pressing. I don't see us having an event anytime before August probably. So it's not a pressing issue. I think we can, maybe this allows us to find a sponsor to do it in the fall and it doesn't come out of anyone's budget. Who knows, but I don't see the pressing need to do it. Gives us flexibility. So if it does come up again in the near future, like, hey, yeah, we can, then we can revisit it.
Thank you. So Janie.
I would like to make a motion to remove this payment item from the payment of bills.
For Willow Creek.
For Willow Creek.
Is the motion that you're approving the payment of the bills, just removing that one payment? Or is it just a motion to remove that first?
Which is the easiest for you, Susan?
All one.
All in one. It's all in one then.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we pay the bills with the removal of Willow Creek payment. Any discussion?
I have another question, but not on that motion.
Okay, so after we go through, then we will go ahead and have your question. Susan, would you do the roll call vote, please?
Yolanda Clark.
Yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdina Wynn.
Valdina Wynn, yes.
Stacy Yeager.
Stacy Yeager, yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Dr. Wynn, you have a question?
Yes. You know, since we're accused of doing everything anyway, I have two questions. One question is, because there probably won't be any more field trips or things like that, have you considered pulling in the credit cards?
The question is going to whom?
We frozen.
Who's frozen? I'm frozen?
Oh.
No. We can shut them down.
I mean, we can shut them down, but we wouldn't pull them back in.
And that is my question. Why wouldn't you, since everything's on virtual, there's no more field trips, there's no more year-end food, why would you have them hanging out just to tempt somebody to make a mistake and make a charge. And I'm prepared to make a motion if that's the case.
Any discussion of the board members?
I do have a quick question, and I don't know if it pertains to Dr. Wynn's question. There are some federal programs that receive funding, like our McKinney-Vento, our migrant services, and some other federal programs that we get money from state to the district. Are those monies frozen from the state, the federal level, the district level, or are those departments still able to use those funds to support their families in however they might feel is necessary in this time? And if so, tying back to Dr. Wynn's question, how does that work, or how do we differentiate, and how would they be able to use those or pull those dollars to support families?
We don't have credit cards that spend federal dollars. Those are all local dollars.
Okay, thank you.
Purchase order.
That was
Okay, thank you.
That was Dennis Covington as answering Randy's question. I do have a question. Are principals still using credit cards to make copies or get the things that they need possibly for their teachers? Have we analyzed what they could be using the credit cards for rather than shutting them down blanketly? I think we do need to get some input as to if they are using them for needs during this time.
This is Dennis Covington. The standard protocol for the use of the credit cards are still in effect, so we haven't shut down them from buying supplies.
Aldina Wynn again. What supplies are you buying when everything is now virtual?
They can use dollars to buy supplies for next year.
But let's be realistic. This is Valdina Wynn again. Let's be realistic. Again, goes back to the question about the budget. And it goes back to my question the last meeting. We have 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 pages of credit card expenditures. The board, maybe you all know them, but the board has no clue what those expenditures are for. Now, how could one know whether they are at the entry level? Yes. But at the governance level, no. Now, what one would think, if you haven't turned in invoices, then yeah, you would have maybe 2 week, maybe again to the end of the year. But when then we go strictly virtual, there needs to be some evaluation. I think, and help me understand, do we still have 150 of them out?
Well, 150 cards. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, that's a question for a discussion at a later day, because I believe that it is not being, and I don't know what the word is right now, but that's something we need to look at. Comment number 1. Question number 2. Thank you, Mr. Covington, for the invoice with Kansas City Royals.
Yes, ma'am.
There's a problem there. This was a field trip, you say, right?
Yes.
Was the field trip in January or February? When you look at the invoices, the dates are different. And this is, and honestly, and I'm going to be straight with you because that's the only way I know to shoot. One would not believe you get an invoice from Kansas City Royals that doesn't have the Kansas City Royals logo on it. But the invoice has 2 different dates on it. One says 1/27/2020. The other invoice says 2/27/2020. When was the field trip?
That I don't know, ma'am. I would have to ask the school exactly when the field trip was.
Yeah. And the invoice, the documentation, with all respect, is suspect. But I was always taught you have to watch the pennies. Well, and don't sweat the small stuff. This is small. But if the dates are all different on the small stuff, I'm concerned. I'm really concerned. But it's there. The document, whatever documentation is, it is there's problems with different dates. So at the base level, at the entry level, there maybe needs to be a little bit more oversight. But I will revisit the credit card issue. Thank you. Valdine Nguyen.
Anyone else with a comment? Thank you. Dr. Nguyen, just for reference, one of the things that did come up at our last board meeting was the fact that we were supposed to have public forums, and the first one was scheduled for March 28th, and the second one for April the 18th. My recommendation is for you to consider at some point in the future for us to come back to look at this event, because this was one that you really wanted us to be engaged in. And then to the board at large, another thing that we need to start considering is looking at our board policy review. We set up 2 committees to be able to address finance and academics. So at some point in the future, again, as a board, we need to make sure that we are going to make sure that we address our board policies. Are there any other comments by other members?
Ms. Drew, to comment on the first comment, I do believe it probably would be a good public relations move to just put on the webpage that, but everybody knows with the virus, there will be no public meetings of over 10 people without social distancing. Right. And this is not going to go away immediately.
Exactly.
But there's also, you skipped over item D.
I'm going back to that.
Okay.
I'm going back to that. But I just wanted to bring that to your awareness, even though, yes, I agree with you because of the fact that we can't meet in large groups. I just didn't want to ignore this and not make it official as a part of our meeting that we discussed it. So let's go back to item D, consider changing official start time for all regular board meetings to June 30th. And this is up for discussion. Because we're scheduled to meet at 5 p.m. in the evening. So therefore, to our board, would you prefer that we leave it at that or change the times similar to what we're doing today?
Madam President, is there an advantage to moving? I'm trying to figure out the reason for moving our start time.
There's no real advantage. It was just a suggestion that was made.
Okay.
Consider, since we do have to be in lockdown for now, but to consider an earlier time in which we can meet. And we don't have to, it's just a consideration.
Yeah, my thoughts are we're expecting the people that benefit from this are definitely our community and our teachers and our staff. So my thoughts are to leave it at 5 o'clock because we're expecting for them to continue on with their day-to-day responsibilities. And I don't think they should have to go back to a recording unless it's something necessary for them because their work conflict. And you also have board members that work as well.
But this is Wanda Brownlee Page. For right now, because they're saying no more than 10 to a group. And I realize you guys work, so we got to work with you on that. It may not be a big public meeting.
Public meeting, they're able to listen in. That's what I mean by public.
Oh, okay, because I wasn't sure.
No, you're right. Thank you.
And I think this is Dr. Yeager, and I think it's important to know that although we're working virtually, I still have meetings. And because I am a leader in my job, I'm responsible for other campuses and things of that nature. So leaving it at 5 o'clock will be still conducive to where I can still do my day job without having to take off or leave early or request for time off to attend our meetings. So I'm okay with leaving it at 5.
And this is Janie commenting. I think we need to be considerate of the people on our board that have full-time jobs so that we do not cause them to have to take personal leave or vacation time just to come to a meeting in the afternoon. I think we need to stay at 5 o'clock or even look at 5:30 if people are having problems getting to the meetings at 5. But going to an afternoon meeting for I don't know whose convenience and stuff. I don't think it's fair. We have to respect people's livelihood. Not all of us have the free time that I have. Let's put it that way. I'm very lucky that I can be adaptable. But people who have full-time jobs, that is their livelihood. We need to respect that.
Anyone else with comments?
Valdina, Wynn, I would just say though, during the virus, most, and Yolanda, I don't know what, how your situation is, but, or you, Stacy, but right now, most people are working from home. So I sure wouldn't go past 5 o'clock, but maybe a little earlier. But most people are, we're under lockdown. So for the most part, unless you have an essential job, you're not at that place of employment.
I am. So I have an essential job. I work for a financial institution. I'm literally going to the office every day.
And that's why I said that you may be different. Congratulations.
Thanks. I'm a proud winner of an elevator. Pushing the buttons.
So with those comments, do we need to have a motion, or we could?
Before you do that, Yolanda, how early could you meet?
The earliest I could do and not have to would be 4:30. That's like the earliest.
Okay. Because, you know, we take, well, Valdina Wynn asked 1,000 questions. And if you go any later, then it turns into midnight. And we get goofy after 6 o'clock.
I don't know about Randy. Randy, you didn't speak, but 4:30 is the earliest for me.
Yeah, I think keeping it as close to 5 as possible would be great for those that do have to work or have other commitments, and it allows folks to be able to log in for our teachers if they are teaching in the afternoon and want to watch or participate. I think 4:30 could work for me. I do work from home. I am able to work virtually, so that's nice, but I can be flexible.
So the general consensus is for us to leave it at 5 o'clock since we cannot adapt accordingly to those who are working. So therefore, since there's not a motion, we're only discussing, we'll leave our meetings at 5 o'clock.
I appreciate it.
I do have Madam President, I do have a question, and I think if I recall, it's something that our communications team is working on. The community comment section of our board meetings, since we are virtual, I'm grateful that we were able to allow for folks to join via Zoom. And I saw at one point there were like 140 people on, which is great. But I wonder, I had been asked by a couple of people if there's still opportunity for folks to sign up to make a community comment. So just curious if there's any update on how that might work as we meet virtually to allow our community members to be able to speak, if they need to submit something written, how that would work. So I think that's a really key part of our board meetings and a really great way to continue to build partnership and relationships with our community members to allow them a voice to speak and a place in our agenda to share their thoughts and ideas. So I'm just curious what that's looking like before our next board meeting.
Susan, I'm going to ask for your assistance in this question.
Well, I just know that KSB, when they did their information on how to have meetings and stick to the requirements of an open meeting, said that most board members or boards that have a community comment policy will need to look at that policy and make the changes for the new electronic meetings. So to make that change, we would need to change the board policy.
I think one thing you guys could, there's a couple different ways you could kind of approach it. One is you could allow public comment to be made in a written format, as Randy was suggesting, and just received by the board, and perhaps then read by the board clerk or read by somebody on behalf of the person making the comment. The technology piece is a little tricky because when we're trying to do these by the the Zoom or whatever electronic format, those have got restrictions built into the programs that make it a little difficult for us to figure out exactly how to navigate the waters of having somebody from the public request to make a comment. Something else we could potentially do that I talked to one of the other attorneys about is that you could allow somebody from the public to sort of submit a pre-recorded public comment limited to the 3 minutes, just as we've done. But you're going to have to do a little bit of flexibility with it. It probably is going to be a meeting or two before we have it down pat as to how best to accomplish it.
Thanks, Greg. I just want to make sure that that didn't get lost in all of this new virtual world. I think it's an important to.
No, I think we figured out how to do it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, Randy.
No, I was just, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think we can figure out how to do it, but it's more a technology challenge than it is a
policy issue.
Policy issue, right?
Because the Attorney General has ruled that it does not keep us from having open meetings.
Right, right.
Thank you.
So is it possible we just add that onto our discussion for our next agenda to make a decision? Is that okay with everyone?
My thought would be to explore what options we might have from a technology standpoint between now and the next meeting, and then put it on the next meeting to have the board make a decision how you want to proceed with it, and we can give you some options.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments?
Sorry, Madam President. I do have a question I may have missed my opportunity to ask regarding the continuous learning plan. Dr. Faust and Matthew mentioned that this is a plan that's kind of a living document that the team will continue to work on and tweak. If we have more questions about the plan as it's being developed, do we just continue to email you, Dr. Faust, with those questions? And then I think it would be great if maybe, I don't want to add more work to you all. I know you guys have a ton going on, but as the plan is developed and changed, maybe you could send that to us once a week to just say, hey, give us highlights of what's been updated, so to draw to our attention so we can look at. And then second part to that is, did I hear you say, or Matthew say, that this will be available to the community, the actual detailed plan will have a chance to view it after today?
After today.
And if so, great. If so, is there opportunity for our community and teachers to give feedback as well in terms of if they have questions or thoughts, or they see something that they quite don't understand? Is there a way for them to perhaps give you or Matthew feedback?
So I'll leave that to Matt, but to my understanding, that the staff, teachers, and principals have been giving feedback as they're going.
Okay, but in terms of community members as well, like,
well, they would.
Whoever might want to reach out
once we release it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're working with the communications department currently to upload the continuous learning plan to our website, and then we can most likely put something there where people can submit comments and questions.
Thank you. I just wanted to, again, just say thank you guys for all the work you're putting into it. I know it's a lot of time and new stuff, so I appreciate everyone's work on it, and I appreciate all our teachers that are getting ready, and principal, all our staff, our custodial staff. So thanks everybody.
I appreciate it as well.
Okay, at this time, we have the revision by Lisa Walker to read to us for us to be able to adopt.
Lisa's on mute.
I believe Matt can show it on the screen.
Lisa is on mute.
And then Maxine Valdino, when I have a question, comment.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Can everyone see the highlighted section of the document?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Lisa, are you? Okay, hold on one second. Okay, you're good.
Okay, all right. So in the, on page 6 is where it will be in the actual document. Underneath the academic supports, we have added after the sentence implementation of the USD 500 2020 continuous learning plan will begin the week of April 6th through the 10th. The district will prepare and mail to each student's household the USD 500 2020 continuous learning plan, which will include information on how students and families can access the various learning options included in the plan, as well as other pertinent information such as grading policies that will be used. Additionally, important contact information on how to access meals, technology support, and health services will also be included. As possible, information will be translated into those student languages which represent the largest proportion of the overall student population. I tried to list the specifics that had come up in comments. Of course, this is not an all-inclusive list. There will be other things we'll include from the FAQs that we're constantly updating. And I put as possible for the student languages because some of those translations we do in-house, others we have to outsource those, and depending upon how quickly we can get those turned around, depending on what we're able to offer. We typically translate into 9 languages when we do surveys, and we will try to continue with that format. Then I also chose to include this again under communication with families. So you see that we've just copied and pasted this exact same message underneath this section as well, so that if people miss it the first time and looking through the academic portion of the document, it will come up again in the family communication. And then as far as the survey goes, I have included that under the other section where the question specifically talks about how will you evaluate on an ongoing basis the effectiveness of your plan. So I've included, additionally, the district plans to conduct a survey of students and families in order for them to provide feedback on necessary adjustments needed to increase the effectiveness of teaching and learning in the USD 500 2020 continuous learning plan. The survey will be offered online as well as mailed to each student's household. Options for completing the survey online or returning to the school through other more traditional methods will be available. And then again, as possible, surveys will be translated into those student languages which represent the largest proportion of the overall student population.
Lisa, this is Janie. I would like to tell you thank you very much for putting my thoughts into a very well-written paragraph. Thank you so much.
Certainly, my pleasure.
But this is Valdina, and I am a stickler on words. I would remove the as possible. Okay, I must be muted again.
No, we
can hear you.
I don't see any yellow border. Because if you put as possible and it doesn't get done, that's not the intent of the motion. So if you're talking about to represent the largest proportion of all overall student population, then do it. I would remove the as possible in both cases.
We can do that. Again, I put the as possible because we will certainly work to do the 9 languages that we typically do, but some of those have to be outsourced, and sometimes it takes 4 weeks for a survey or something, or 6 weeks to get turned around to us. And so I just wanted to make sure that I left, enough room there that if we had a problem, there would be an allowance for that. But I can certainly take that out if that's what everyone else would like.
This is a life-threatening situation. And so for those translating services that take 6 weeks, we can't use them. And they're not the only ones in town, I would think. But that it just becomes more definitive. And this is the will of the board, but I would personally take as possible out.
Considering what we've just learned, I think we need to leave it.
Okay, so if it doesn't get done, you've allowed it to slip through the cracks.
I don't think it.
We'll find out, won't we?
Well, can we vote on this? Because as possible, it's shaky. And I would agree, I would take it out as well.
I
Either
want to
we're gonna
make,
do it or we're not gonna do it.
I want to make the motion that we approve the Kansas City, Kansas 2020 Continuous Learning Plan as it was written and updated.
I second it. Brandy Lopez seconded. Any discussion? We
The
still
motion
need to take the possible out, but go ahead, let's vote. That's how you do it. The motion has been made that we accept the Kansas City, Kansas USD 500 2020 Continuous Learning Plan. No
As amended.
Susan?
Yolanda Clark,
Yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys,
Yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, no.
Valdina Nguyen,
Valdina Nguyen, no.
Stacy Yeager.
Stacy Yeager, yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
I was going to share with all of you that same information was added to the full document as well, and it sits under the section. I've actually added a new section to the document called Communication with Staff and Families. It pulled out how or what channels we'll use to communicate with families as well as our staff, and then right below it, information on how we'll communicate through mail, as well as a survey will be sent out to all folks to get feedback and input.
Matthew, this is Janie. Thank you very much for doing that.
You're very welcome.
Can you close that out, please? Thank you. So now, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Nguyen, you said you had a comment?
Right, and I don't know if this should be in communications or with this continuous learning plan. Nevertheless, I received communication from, and this kind of goes into the volunteer and stakeholders issue. How are the food deliveries going? How are the food deliveries going? What is the number? Has it picked up?
So I haven't sent the numbers out today. I sent them out yesterday, but I'll send them out again today.
Okay, because I've been in communication with some local vendors who, when we talked to Josh, he was having, and let's hope that's just the first week, the cheese spread, the whatever, wheat thins, because he didn't have supplies. We have local vendors who have stores who would like to prepare some of the meals. So what is and they would be bonded, of course. What is the process that they would go through becoming a vendor? And is there opportunity for that?
So Josh is here. I'll let him speak. You ready?
So in order to become a vendor with us, they would need to fill out the vendor request form on our website, and they can contact me to discuss what food options they have available, what the quantities are, what the purchasing process looks like. I would encourage whoever this vendor is to become familiar with the USDA requirements related to meal service, because we have specific needs on what the nutritional profile of all the food items are. And so those are a lot of the questions that I'll be asking. So as long as they have nutritional analysis of their food products that they have, that they're made in a USDA facility and all of those things. We can definitely work with them on getting some of those food items in our facilities. I will also make you aware that we do have to purchase at the lowest responsible price because we are a federal program. And so depending on what the food items are, we will do price comparisons to make sure that we're purchasing at the lowest responsible price.
Well, good. It's good to know because there is, for different local businesses, comments made that USD 500 does not, and it's not because they don't have the lowest prices either. And I don't want to use the word cater to because we have no preferences. We understand that. But here we know that, let's hope that the numbers have picked up partially, and I'll probably, first I want to know why Josh doesn't go with video like the rest of us. We never see his face, but that's a side note. But the point is, maybe some, there you are, good to see you. The mystery person. But nevertheless, here's an opportunity for us to have more buy-in from the community, and it could be 3 or 4 vendors. But yes, rules must be followed, bonding must be had. We understand all that. There's just never been much welcoming, and I've said this before, so it's not new in town, welcoming to local businesses. So here's an opportunity. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Since we're on the topic of nutrition, is it okay to ask a question? This is Randy Lopez.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Thanks, Josh. Just a couple of real quick questions to follow up. And we had talked about there's potentially a waiver from, I think, US, which would allow for adults to pick up meals for their kids without having the kids present to pick up the meals. I'm curious where, I know you guys were looking into it, and just curious if we can get an update on that and be clear and make sure that we're all on the same page with that. And then the second question is around transportation for our kids. Again, just thinking about, have you seen that be an issue? We're a week and a half in, or almost a week and a half in, with the meal distribution. I know I've had some folks contact me saying, hey, for whatever reason, they don't have a car, they can't walk that far. They're afraid to get out because of their documentation status. So transportation continues to be an issue for our families. So any updates on how we're handling that situation? So those are 2 follow-up questions. Thank you.
Sure. So the waiver is it's not specifically adults. It's for parents and guardians. So that's the little twist that USDA put on it. They want us to maintain accountability and integrity to make sure that we're just not giving meals to adults that don't wind up in the hands of kids. So I believe it's going live today on our social media and our website. We're going to have a hotline where our community members and not only just students, but just people in general in Roanoke County can call in to our hotline and reserve meals if the child can't come to the meal site to pick up the meal. So adults will call in, say, hey, I've got 2 kiddos. One of them may be a KCKPS student. One of them may be a younger, older sibling that isn't KCKPS student. We're going to vet some of that out. Obviously, we can't vet everyone out. We don't have information on students from Christ the King or other students just in general. And so we're going to have to take that somewhat self-reporting, but we're also going to do our due diligence to say that, if student is ours, we want to make sure that it is the parent or guardian that's picking up that meal. Guardian at this point is a very loose term. Because we know that a parent or guardian, a legal parent or guardian may be at work during this time. And so we're considering guardian as, are you in care of a child? And so if this person is in care of the child, they can come and say, hey, I got 2 children that I'm caring for. I'm not their legal parent. I'm not their legal guardian, but I'd like to come to Wyandotte every day and pick up 2 meals to take home with me. So they're going to call this hotline, make their reservation. We'll have that meal ready for them. So we have the hotlines going live tomorrow. I'll be down in the hotline call center just to be there to monitor. We will have bilingual staff available to answer those phone calls. We've got a process and a procedure in place. So we'll be interested to see what percentage of people take advantage of that. Hopefully that does increase access. Obviously, that's what we're hopeful for. The second question is related to transportation. The last couple of days, we have seen a small increase in the number of meals that we've served. Obviously, with breakfast and lunch, we've doubled our participation without having to do anything, just because we're offering 2 meals at the same time. But today, I think we saw around 2,600 people participate in our meals. And so that's up from, about 1,000 from what we were talking about the other day, which we were doing about 1,700 meals a day. So by expanding to Rosedale and Banneker, at Rosedale and Banneker, we haven't seen much participation. I think it was like 77 yesterday at Banneker, and I think it was maybe 175 today. So not much, but it's more than nothing. Additionally, we're looking into some Plan C locations. How do we continue to expand? And so we're meeting and talking about within our community, where are the holes, and what facilities do we have surrounding those holes to continue to offer safe meals, healthy meals, and do it in a way that we can be accountable, while also meeting the needs of the community of, we don't want people stacked up on top of each other in traffic. We want to make sure that we have good plans for that. So we're continuing to look at access for sure.
Alina, I would like for you to continue to look at how area school districts can break the law by using their buses. This week on the morning news, it had, and I don't remember which school district it was, but I can't believe that a district open violation of a law would go on the morning news and say, I'm going to break the law by using school bus to deliver food. So maybe that's a Greg job, or maybe, hey, we just need to call the school district and ask how they're getting away with it.
Yeah, I think we've talked about the bus stops many times, and based on the stay-at-home order in Wyandotte County right now, and the epidemiologists that we've talked to at the unified government, that's against their recommendations. So we'll continue to watch what the UG's recommendations are in the health department, and we'll adjust as we can. So,
Valina Winigan, so you're saying it's against their recommendation, it's not against the law?
Correct. I mean, the mandate at this point is kind of a law. It's more of an order, but yes, it's against the recommendations.
Well, I'd have to go back and look at our meeting again, but I could have sworn you said it was against the law. But nevertheless, that's different. But these are metro school districts, and we're under essentially, state of Kansas, is under a statewide stay-at-home. So if there is a will and if there is a way, then perhaps there's a safe way to feed 22,000 kids with buses. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam President, I want to say thank you, and Dr. Faust did a video this week acknowledging 5 schools in our district who are getting an acknowledgement from the state. Dr. Faust, could you elaborate a little more on those schools? And I think they're supposed to be getting some awards as well, but I'm so excited and was so excited to see that 5 of our schools are being acknowledged by the state of Kansas.
Yes, so 5 schools. Of course, they were the state. There were 100 schools, and out of those 100 schools, we had 5 schools that were able to receive the award. And so, of course, it was, you caught me on the spot. I've just lost it. Bethel, where are we at? So 3 of our elementary schools and 2 middle schools are the ones that were recipients of the award. And Janet Watt sent the information. Typically, she'll come and present it because of how we are not able to meet. She sent it through an email, but I am just so pleased about all the work. And, it's good to have some bright spots in these times where, people are, they're stuck at home and they're not able to do what needs to be done at schools. And so Wyandotte County USD 500 is still showing that we are educating kids. And so that was really just a good way to end last week with those awards.
That is so good. I will recommend that Randy brought up the issue of maybe recording. So it would be great if we could get a recording of her, or maybe the schools when they get the award, so that we can properly acknowledge them through one of our meetings as well, so that we can continue spreading the good news, since we can't meet in person or have that capacity. But I would encourage us to do a video. Maybe if she would be willing to do a video, and our principals maybe, just so that, because our students love seeing their name, they love knowing that they're part of that. Teachers as well also love that recognition, and I just don't want us to lose it because we have to meet online. So,
and the 5 schools are Argentine, Arrowhead, Bethel, Emerson, and Frank Rushton.
Great.
Thank you. So before we get ready to close out, I want to apologize to the board members and all that are present that at the beginning of this meeting, I failed to read the board norms and protocols. So they are on the document, on our agenda, but I'm addressing that I did fail to do that. So you can read them for yourselves, but I will make sure that I do that at our next meeting. Now ready for communications.
Miss Drew.
Yes.
I had a question. When you guys are putting together the next agenda, or when, I don't know when, but when will we have something to do with the budget, to talk about the budget for next year? I know we're doing a lot of other stuff, but
if I'm not mistaken, in July is when we will be.
Oh, no.
Sometime before we do.
No, you don't wait till July. You don't wait till July?
No,
If I'm not mistaken, Dr. Wynn.
no, the superintendent will present his budget to the board in May, in which then it will become the board's budget recommendation from the superintendent that we will start having meetings in June and July for you all to review the budget.
But they're talking about the priorities. The priorities.
Yes.
That's before.
No, you will be getting today, as soon as I get out of this meeting, the spreadsheet where I gather you all's priorities and recommendations that you would like to see in the budget, and I will compile those and send them back out to you, so you all can see how it ranked and the ideals that each of you have for the budget, and I will send that back out to you all probably about a couple of days after you all send them to me. I just compile them and send them back out to you.
so just for clarity, you saying we're going to be getting it pretty soon?
Yes, I'm gonna send it out before I go. Hopefully before I go home today. I will try to get it out today.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Anyone else? Dr. Faust, did you have any communications?
Sure. The staff here has been doing a great job, and I'm thankful for all the hard work that they have put in daily, and to be able to turn a plan around in 7 days, that that was a lot of work and a lot of hours that they all have put in, and it's just been I have not heard of any grumbling. I'd go around and be the cheerleader and of course ask more questions, and the great part is that they would pull through, and the training of the principals, the training of the teachers, and the ongoing, those were just put together in less than 7 days, where they had to put all of this together for teachers and principals to be able to critique their work, give input to their work. And so everyone was in a vulnerable state. I thank you, Matt, Lisa, Julie, Susie, and I'm going to Alan. I'm going to miss a lot of the people, Kelly, everyone else in here who was putting the plan together, because it was not a lot of people who were working on it. I think one of the things that I can say is that these individuals very much know what team is like and how to work hard and do it when it's needed to be done. So again, I just want to thank the team for pulling together in these last days.
Thank you. I just like to say that, you know, the key to doing all of this is to make sure that we have balance in everything that we do. It changes is inevitable, and we are moving at that with that. But at this particular time, life is fluctuating, and just as we are constantly knowing that things are changing day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour, we would focus on what we're doing now. And I do appreciate everything that everybody is doing. As we move through this, we have to make sure that we are on a journey of completeness to finish everything accordingly. So I again commend the board for everything that they're doing to help us to work toward progressing in a sense of unity as we try to endeavor to bring us together during this crisis at this particular time. Because what we're trying to do is to help our students, help our classified staff, our certified staff, everyone that is within our community at large. And more importantly, I really give kudos to Dr. Faust and his staff for doing everything that they're doing. Thank you.
Could I ask Greg a question, please?
You
Is he
can.
still on the air?
I am.
Greg, give us the timelines again for us to review administrators' contracts, if we were going to make any changes or any other kind of contracts.
Yeah, so the administrators' contracts, just like the teachers' individual contracts, they have the statutory non-renewal date. I think it's the fourth week in May, and then they've got the administrators got so many days after that. Let me look it up, make sure I got the exact right date for you.
Yes, please give us that in writing.
Okay, I can send everybody an email if you want, but this.
Yes, I think there's some other communication that we are waiting from you.
What's that?
This is Valdina Nguyen. I think there's other communication we're still waiting from you.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Any other comments? Thank you. With that, the meeting is adjourned.